the special event because we have a special guest. And let's introduce not only who we have here, because honestly, you guys know me and Wheels by this point if you've tuned into the channel
Yes.
regularly. If you don't, we are Hero Club. We are a website that focuses on hero news and specifically interviews for Tokusatsu and beyond. And on that note, I am Soundout12. My co-host below me is Wheelchair21, and our special guest is Michael Kinder, who many people now famously know him from Kamen Rider, Geats. Now you can talk. I'm bad at transition.
Oh, I was like, am I on?
You're on now.
I was like, huh? Is it my turn? Okay, hey everybody, it's Black Panther. What's happening? Wakanda forever. Let's do this.
All right, so yeah, we are. This is what is this? Our first live interview.
Yes.
That we've ever done. So if we're a little awkward, that's why. We're always a little awkward, but that's. Sorry, my computer just tried to blind me with a text document.
Oh, we should probably also introduce the format for this. Should I?
You
should
go
I
for
do
the
this
format because now
Okay.
I can't see. I got blinded by my computer.
Okay, so Soundout blinded himself by the light. All right, so our format for you guys tuning in with us, we have ourselves, myself and Soundout with Mike Kinder. We also have our friend Toma, who's on air with us. Toma, say hello, please.
Hello.
All right, Toma is going to be our lady that is going to help us kind of curate what's going on in the chat. So when you guys are asking us questions, she's going to make sure that they're duly noted, and then we'll look through them and see if they match up with any of the questions we got in our list of questions. And then when we do our little intermissions every 4 or 5 questions, we'll then take the questions from the chat and so on and so forth. So the idea is we're going to do 4 or 5. Then we'll go to you, the chat, and then we'll just keep on going and going for as long as we can, as long as Mike is willing to do this with us, because, this is all up to him. This is all kind of, well, it's part of his brainchild, someone else's brainchild, and our brainchild. It was one of those things of everyone just got together, we wanted to collaborate, and here we are today. So it's going to be interesting. So thank you all joining us today. I see some of our longtime friends in the chat already. Our friend Ben is going to be, I think, one of the moderators on this stream. We have our friend Joker, who podcasts with us on occasion. And we also have Werewolf Finder, who we haven't seen in, ever. And other people are now filing in right now, too. So there's going to be a lot of talk in the chat. And Toma will make sure we see it when it comes time. So, Soundout, do you have the questions open on your side?
I just did. Now that I can see.
Okay, cool.
I have my computer in dark
Solar
mode.
flare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basically. I have my computer in dark mode, so when Google Docs is just white background, I'm like, the sun.
Yeah.
All right,
That should be like John's move. White background. Just death.
Just blinding light. All right, so let's begin with our first and very easy question. This is the softball question of the interview. How did you first get interested into Tokusatsu, and what was your favorite shows?
Okay, so this is kind of weird because, I'm from kind of a different time, especially living through 5 decades and I'm only in my 30s, so that's kind of cool. When I was a little kid, under the age of 5, before I was going to school and everything, I used to go to a babysitter. My mom had this close friend, and she used to babysit me as a little tyke. Terrible little tyke, but I was there. And so she would always turn on the TV, and this is back in the day before a lot of people had cable television. So you just had your basic antenna stations, and one of them was TBS. And so throughout the day, she would just turn on TV and be like, "Go watch TV and don't bother me because I got to go cook for everybody and this, that, and the other." So I would sit there and watch TBS. And it's kind of a thing that people, I guess, didn't know that back in the day, in the late 80s, early 90s to mid 90s, whenever you would watch TBS throughout the day, they would stop showing American programming and they would show Japanese television programming. So for me, I grew up watching a lot of Toho stuff, all the Godzilla movies. I pretty much know them by heart because I would watch them all day. And there was a lot of Ultraman and Subaraya stuff, and sometimes they did some Studio 7 stuff, which doesn't really exist anymore. And one of the things that they used to show, and it was the weirdest thing ever, was they were showing like Battle Fever J, which was like the coolest thing ever because, you know, this is like 10 plus years later. So I'm sitting there watching Battle Fever and Jack and, you know, some of these old Super Sentai shows. And then they would show like Kamen Rider Black. And I was like, yo, I am 100% for this because there's a bunch of people in costumes running around kicking each other in the face. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm like a little 3-year-old, so I don't know what the heck's going on, but I'm like, hey, there's a guy in a costume with a helmet kicking some dude in the face. Ha, take that. Yes. So I, you know, started watching that in my about 2, 3 years old, and I started retaining it because I'm like, oh, this is cool. Then when I was around 5, that's when Power Rangers, you know, airs in the States. So I was literally I was 5 years old when that started. That shows you how old I am. And so, you know, me waking up early to go to school, kindergarten, and all this, that, and the other, you know, we would sit in the auditorium before we go to class, and I'm sitting there watching the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers get their butts kicked or beat the crap out of something. And that's kind of like my Toku journey start. You know, it was like really cool. And then we also had, you know, Saban's Mask Rider, which was a nightmare, but you know what? It was cool at the time. Which was a nightmare.
Hey, don't forget what I
but
told you.
it was
We
cool at
saved the
time.
Furbus mask. The fans came together and saved the Furbus mask.
I'm still amazed that you guys did that.
Yeah,
That is like,
there was like 2 or 3 people that got the mask, I guess, and they're preserving it.
so are you gonna destroy it or are you gonna keep it? Like,
Ask them. I think they're gonna keep it because I think one of them worships it as their
preservation was
god.
the point, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of them does worship it as a god, a false idol. Yes. I mean,
if
the
it
internet.
gives you superpowers, let me know because I'll come and worship that thing too. Like, just saying. Like,
Exactly. So Furbus, you got on this stream. You live again.
Furbus lives again.
And again.
It's
Again.
funny because I think somehow Furbus caused our audio tracks to duplicate, so the curse of Furbus is strong, and I just fixed it.
So I guess they heard us like echoing in the stream.
It was reverberating through 4 different audio channels. So,
Oh man, that's bad.
nice.
Well, all the technical difficulties, you're gonna get it here on Hero Club Live.
Technical difficulties.
all right. Well, that was
All right.
It should be all cleared up now. This is the fun part about running the stream while also being on camera. I'm like looking into my computer, like, is everything working?
It isn't.
It never.
Just
is.
telling you right now, it never is working. All right. I guess I'll talk about this one because this one, you like. So this one happened when we met with him earlier this week. We were just talking to him. Like sometimes you would just say something, and it was like, "Oh wait, you what?" So one of the things we talked about the other night was that you mentioned you're a registered disabled veteran, and can we talk about your service since you actually went into the military and served?
Yeah, so I joined the Navy I was, you know, ROTC kid, you know, Army ROTC, went through all of that, all 4 years. And so I joined the Navy when I was 16, way back in like 2004. So 2005, I went to basic training at 17 and had my birthday in basic training, which is hilarious because I got the shit beat out of me for that one. Wait, am I allowed to curse in here?
Yeah, keep going. So I think as
whoops.
long as we don't say like really colorful words and
Okay.
slurs, we're good.
So like that episode of SpongeBob with the like, there's 7 curse words, but then there's actually like 20 plus
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes, actually, literally, that's how Twitch works.
Hey, we got a spam chat already. That's great. Because we're gonna block you right now. We're gonna do that. Woo!
Welcome, spam chat. Click here for more.
Exactly. You're gonna get
But
banned.
Ban hammer.
Exactly. Boom. Live on air.
All right. So yeah, I went to basic training at 17, got the crap beat out of me because of my birthday and turning 18 in basic training. But yes, I started my military career at pretty much 17, 18 years old. And I went for 11 years. And during that time, I have been to quite a few places and things of that nature. And believe it or not, the Navy is what actually brought me out to Japan in the first place. I got forward deployed out here, and it was like my last 2 years of my contract. And I kind of went from there. So I did my final 2 years in Japan, stationed at a Navy hospital, which was kind of cool. I worked in anesthesia, if you didn't know. So pretty much my entire day was surgery, which is kind of interesting and very fun. Enjoyed the job. I was a combat medic, aka a corpsman, if you've ever heard of one. So, like, if you ever watch like war movies and stuff, and the guy gets shot, and you hear that "Doc," I was Doc. So that was like my job. So peacetime, I work in hospitals and clinics and whatnot. But then wartime, I'm pretty much on the front lines, saving lives as a battlefield doctor per se.
All right. And yeah, no, that was interesting because, like you said, disabled vet, and I was like, huh, did not see that one coming since you're also a stuntman. But did serving in the military lead to your decision to move to Japan, or was there another reason, like being a stuntman or whatnot?
Well, stunt work and stuff I had already been doing while I was in the military because I used to do like professional wrestling, and this is a bomb I'm dropping on you right now. Like,
Yeah, we
with
didn't see
this,
that one
'cause
coming.
yeah, I wanted to do like I want to go to the WWF, and I want to be up there and doing that, and so I was in a small time production up in Virginia, and I was doing that for a while, and I got injured during a title fight, so I kind of walked away from it because being in the military, I can't go out and get injured in my free time and then expect to, be working or doing whatever it is I need to do during my job. So I pretty much walked away from that and left it. And I had pretty much spent about 6 years being stationed in Virginia, in different places. So I was in Norfolk, I was in Newport News, I was in Portsmouth, like different areas. And then it came time for me to either make the choice to finish my naval career at 6 years or re-enlist for another 2 years and keep it moving. So I decided, okay, if you give me good orders or give me somewhere cool to go, I'll stay in. So I go to my detail and I said, hey man, I'm up for orders, what do I got? And he's like, well, where do you want to go? And I'm like, can I stay here and just finish out my final 2 years? I was in a relationship and I wanted to get married, that kind of thing. So I'm like, let me stay here and finish my career. And my detail is like, nope, you got to go overseas. And I'm like, really, man? Because, for 6 years, I wanted to go overseas and you wouldn't let me, but now you're telling me I have to go overseas. And I'm like, dick move. So they were like, okay. So I was like, all right, what's my choices? He's like, Italy, or Japan. You pick. And I was like, I'm going to Japan. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Japan. He's like, all right. And he hangs up the phone. And then like 2 days later, I walk into my office and there's my orders sitting on my desk going to Japan. And that's kind of how that happened. It was like super random.
All right then. Sando. Next question is you.
Next question is me.
Yeah, number 4.
Let's see. Shoot, making sure my audio's on. What adjustments did you need to make when moving to Japan, and what was the overall process like?
That's a good question because I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, I'm going to Japan. I don't know what's going to happen when I get there, what it's going to be like, and you know, uh, how everything was going to go. And it was kind of like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but like Blazing Saddles, like
Yes.
one of my favorite movies. Like when the new sheriff comes in and he has to get adjusted to being in the town with everybody, and everybody's kind of like, this guy, and then eventually they kind of warm up to him. That was kind of my experience of moving to Japan. It was kind of the funniest thing ever because it was like, oh my god, I'm in Japan, and then it's like
Uh,
you
uh, Wait,
for
did you
me,
go silent, or did you just go silent? There was a bit of a burp when you were talking.
Everything hiccuped for a moment. It's all back now.
So
yeah.
is it?
Should I go back or?
Yeah, just say what you were saying right before it just like dropped on you for a second.
So just start back at you. Could we Blazing Saddles
It
reference?
it was right after your Blazing Saddles reference. Sorry.
Right. So I was saying that, like, coming to Japan, I'm like, oh, I'm in Japan, and then I'm like, I know nothing here. What's going on? What am I doing? And so I've always been the adventurous type that whenever I go to a new area or a new place, I just go out exploring and kind of making my way around. Just to like, I'll go out and get lost and try to find my way home just so I can start learning the area that I live in. And so I moved to Japan on like a Thursday in 2011. Like back in 2011, this is like the end of May in 2011. I moved here, and it's kind of funny because on the way, I remember being up in the sky. We're like 20, 30,000 miles in the air, and some dude that's like sitting a few rows up from me just looks around, reaches down under his seat, and he comes up, and there's like a giant pizza box, and I'm like, where the did he get like a pizza at like 30,000 feet? Because I want one of those. Like, it was the funniest thing ever. But landing here, it had an adjustment period, but for me, it probably took a week to adjust to being in Japan. So, like, my second day here, I got here on a Thursday. Saturday morning, I'm on a train heading to Tokyo. I went to Akihabara because, Otaku Town, right? Like, hey, there's all the video games, there's all the anime stuff, and this, that, and the other. So I went out there doing all of that, and ended up getting signed to be a dancer for like this big gaming event that was going on at the time, which was like the most hilarious thing ever. And it was because at the time, this is when, the Xbox 360 was still a big thing and the Kinect was like just taking off. So they were releasing Dance Central when I moved here, and it was like a big event, and they had like all these like really beautiful, stunning, like game girls out there, and like all the show girls were there, and they were kind of dancing and stuff. And then like they were playing a lot of music, and you could play the game and stuff. So I went up and I played the game, and I was like wrecking the game, and they're like, yo, are you a dancer? And I'm like, yeah. And they're just like, okay, I'm the promoter of this event, this is my event, I need you to go on stage like right now and dance with my girls. That was his words exactly. Like, I need you to go on stage and dance with my girls. And I'm like, okay. So I'm on stage and I'm like, yay, like surrounded by like all these like, showgirls, and I'm just all like, yay, like the John Claude Van Damme scene from like Bloodsport, when he's like dancing in the. It was pretty much that. Like, it was the funniest thing ever. So that kind of led me to, I want to do more. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then roughly around when I got here, it was also my birthday. So I went out in town, bought myself a cosplay because I'm like, hey, treat myself to something nice. And I bought a Lelouch cosplay, the Zero cosplay from, Kogeya. So I was walking around Tokyo dressed as Zero/Lelouch, and, it was pretty funny because then I met this idol group, and they were all really pretty girls, and they were like, you look interesting. Can you like, join us and perform with us? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And that was kind of like just me getting started in entertainment in Japan. It was just the weirdest thing ever because it was just like people just would look at me and be like, oh, your aura is kind of interesting. Hey, do you dance or do you do anything? And can you come and do this? And can you come and do that? So luckily, I had the experience of going out and experiencing Japan, which helped me to adjust a lot faster to being here.
All right. Sounds like some good experiences of just like random occurrences that lead you down a different path.
Right.
All right. So that was actually our fourth question. And is there any actual comments from the chat, like questions or things so far? I see nothing on my side, Toma. Was there anything I'm missing? I just see people, just jokingly bantering about.
Yeah, that's all I see.
Okay, so there's no questions yet. So I'm just going to go to this one question that a friend of ours, Zeltrax, forwarded me, just in case he wasn't going to be here in time. At least that was the one he at least wanted to ask at the time being. I don't know if he does. I just got to make sure I open it now because for some reason my DMs got closed. So I got to go check my DMs real fast. Apologies. Technical difficulties, even when you're using another service altogether.
Thanks, technical difficulties.
I know, right? Like, I'm just looking here, and I'm like, man, it's not loading. Great. I guess I'm just gonna go off the back of my hand or head. The one that Zeltrax asked was, is there any props that you wish you could actually own, past or present, like that you'd want like as a 1-to-1 scale prop, whether it be actually off the show itself or just like a replica made, like cosplay wise, or just to have on display?
Oh, I got plenty. You have opened the door there, my friend. Like,
all right,
you have opened the door and opened this can of worms. This is on you. This is your fault.
This is Zeltrax's fault, actually. Okay.
This is all your fault, but I am here for it. Oh man, there is so many. Almost any weapon that exists from any show, Super Sentai or Kamen Rider, I want. I'm like, yo, I would literally buy a house just to have it full of weapons and costumes, just for that fact and that fact alone. Like, it would just be a walking museum. One of my all-time favorites, believe it or not, I'm a big Kaku Ranger fan, and most people don't know that. But I would kill to have like Ninja Black's costume because he was like my favorite Ranger. Maybe it's something about the color black. Maybe it's black. I don't know,
A
but
little bit of the King Kosogi influence.
yeah, he was
I
a
don't know
cool
why
guy.
when you started saying black, I just thought of the song. I'm like the black that me.
Exactly right. Black and I'm black, y'all. Like, like I'm that guy. And so another suit that if I could totally own it, I would be Wizard's suit, just because I was a big fan of that design and I loved it. And that one was super epic to me. Like I'm still like in awe of how awesome that suit looked and the aesthetics of it. Like each form, even the ultimate form, I'm just like, dude, that is such an epic suit. I want that suit. So almost any suit that I can get my hands on, I would totally do. Any weapon I can get my hands on, I totally would. I had a habit of collecting all the henshin devices from like Super Sentai. So any changers I can get, I would totally get them. I would just be like, yeah, give me that. Walking through the warehouse, like, let me get that. Let me get a little bit of that. Make it like Super Toy Run back in the day. Or I'll just run through with a shopping cart, just start throwing stuff in the cart and running, and then try to run off the lot before they catch me.
That's your last day on Toei ever.
Pretty much. But speaking of like owning props, I do own one that is actually pretty cool, and I didn't even know it was a show prop until after I bought it. And so, if you remember Go Go 5, which was, Lightspeed Rescue in the
Mhm.
States, so, like usually, and this is kind of like a trade secret, I guess, whenever they do the helmets and stuff for the show, they do two types of helmets. They do the show helmet, which is kind of like camera's going to be zoomed in, it's going to be right in your face, it's got to look pretty, it's got to look great, but it has like no visibility and it has like no breathability. Like those helmets are like the worst to wear because you don't really get to see much because of the tinted visor or the way that it's shaped. You might get like this much visibility sometimes, and then also there's no like breathing holes in it, so not only can you barely see as it is when you're breathing, you're fogging up the thing, so you definitely can't see anything, so you're kind of just you're shooting blind the entire time. And they have what is called the stunt helmet, which is it's not a visor, it's actually still fiberglass, but there's holes drilled into the visor so you can actually see, but they like the breathing hole, but there's like breathing holes so it doesn't fog up and you can actually see through it and stuff. It's just literally you got like these little pinholes, they're maybe about that big, and there's like hundreds of them like drilled into the visor. So it's kind of an interesting thing that you wouldn't even really know, but when they're doing action stuff, they're wearing these helmets, and then when there's like, okay, it's pose time, then they're wearing the other helmets. So and I actually own the Red Ranger's helmet from the show on the Japanese side, which I didn't know was actually used for the show and the live performances until after I bought it. And then the person that owned it was like, oh, yeah, hey, this is actually a show prop. And I'm like, I own a piece of memorabilia. I am never getting rid of this. So I'm like, this is mine.
That's pretty amazing.
And I've worn it, but it is super uncomfortable to wear that helmet because my head's big. So just like, just not my favorite to wear, but I love the suit.
All right. Our friend Ware in the chat actually wants to build off of like the prop thing. If you could only have one changer, one henshin device, Sentai or Rider, which one would you like to have exactly for its powers?
Whew, now you're asking a good one.
Yeah.
Man, that is a dang good question. Holy crap. Okay, I can only pick one.
Okay.
I can only pick one, right? Okay.
I think it's one, either or, not one for each. I think it's only.
Yeah, just one. You know what? I'm gonna do it. The Gokai changer from Gokaiger. Because why? I can pretty much access any power, any key. Why not? I'm pretty much gonna beat anybody and everybody, even on the Kamen Rider side, because they technically had Kamen Rider keys too. So I'm totally there for that.
All right. And Zeth, we will get to your second half of your question a little bit later, but we will ask the first one right now, which is in the show, for Geats. They just wanted to, the first half of their question. We'll ask the other one later, but they wanted to actually ask what is supposed to be the icon on your ID core, because a lot of people are saying it's supposed to be a black tiger or some kind of cat-like creature. What actually is the icon logo, and which one does it match up, or at least for animal, if you know right
Okay.
now?
We're gonna play a guessing game here. So I'm gonna do a gesture, and you guys are gonna figure out what it is. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Oh, it's a Black Panther.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay. That makes more sense when you let in with the I am the Black Panther.
It all ties together now.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. See, I was dropping Easter eggs on you. You didn't even catch it. It was right over your head. Like,
What? All right, but we'll ask the other one a little bit later because that also adds into the creation of your character so far. So we'll get to that one. Don't worry, Zeth. We will come back to the whole Henshin thing when we get further on into finding out in the whole creation of the involvement of Ben and John. So don't worry. Don't worry. Also, someone is logged in right now as Hero Club because I didn't write that. I'm assuming the Wakanda Forever is either Project or Metal. Logged in as Hero Club. Or it was
awesome.
Sound Out. I don't
It's
know.
not
which
me.
one.
I'm not. I'm
So,
not even messing with
so
the
we
chat.
narrowed down that it's Project or Metal, the other people who have the account information for when we stream. Because for those who don't know, Sound Out normally doesn't host streams on Hero Club. It's usually Metal. He's the one who usually runs Hero Club Weekly, which is Wednesdays at 9 p.m. EST, and Fridays we do a game night, usually, but it's the holidays, so we haven't done one this past Friday, and we're not going to do one this coming Friday. So we just have our Wednesday show. We'll plug it more later in the show. I think those are the only questions we have at this moment. So let's go back to the ones we've had written for you at this
I got
time.
a question before we move on.
All
I'm
right.
just curious. What is the banter that's going on in the chat since I can't see it? I kind of want to know what you're saying.
Some of the banter that we've had so far was just some of our friends just joking, like when we addressed our friend Ware, he's like, I still live, God yes. Some other stuff was our friend Mucha made a joke saying I was just gonna burn everything down to the ground. Toma made a joke in the chat by saying, oh God, we're opening Pandora's box for anyone on delay. Project and Joker are trying to say neither of them or it's them in control of the Hero Club account other than myself at this moment. And Ware said he can dig that about how their fighting style was also really cool, though. I'm expecting it's in regards to the Gokaigers using everyone's powers. So
Right. It's epic.
Yeah. So those are most of the comments. I think I was able to go through all the general stuff. Like, we have a lot of viewers. That's a good thing. Okay. Okay, so Product has a joke question before we go back into our list of questions. Product's joke was, is pineapple on pizza genius or an abomination?
And do they have that in Japan?
Do they have that in Japan?
I'm pretty sure they have to have it in Japan.
They do. It's actually very popular in Japan. And I don't know, maybe it's ironic to me, but, pizza is an Italian thing. And they call it Hawaiian pizza, but it was made by a German guy. So, go figure. Like me, I think it's an abomination because, like me, I'm from Chicago. I got Italian roots. So I'm very big on pizza. And I'm like, yeah, anytime someone's like, let's put some pineapple and some ham on it, and I'm like, kill it with fire now. No, we're not doing this. So, you know where I stand. I am not a big pineapples on pizza guy. Hey, if you do that, that's your thing. You have that, but do not bring that over here.
All right,
it will go out of a window.
Here's a connected story. When I visited Hawaii, there was no place serving Hawaiian pizza. So
there you go.
That's how you know the origins are not. It's the Hawaiian part of it is really a lie.
The hilarious part is it's actually German origin. It's literally German. Go look it up. You don't believe me? Go look it up. Fact check it.
I mean, you don't have to fact check it. Most German food are abominations.
Yep.
Dang,
and I say that with a lot of German background in my family. So
nice.
All right. Hey, Set Out, can you actually take the next question? I'm literally fighting with my right leg right now. It wants to go all over the place, and I'm just gonna be like a Weebles Wobbles right now because my right leg is
Okay,
spazzing the hell out.
I'll roll the next question out.
Yeah, you roll the next one out as I'm trying to deal. So anyone who sees me doing weird stuff on the camera, my leg is spasming, and I don't know why.
If it gets
I
too weird, I'll just shut your video off. It's
exactly just shut it off. Like if you see me like somehow fall out of the bed, yeah.
I am now reminded of like Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 graphics, like Fallout New Vegas. Just
Yeah, no, my leg
Ah.
is just like going left and right, and I'm just like, will you stop? God.
All right. How did you get involved with stunt acting in general, or did your dancing career kick it off, or was it vice versa?
Well, my dancing career has been a thing that I've been doing for a very long time. I started dancing when I was like 2, 3 years old, and I was actually very terrible at it. I didn't actually start being decent at dancing until at least my senior year of high school. So, like 2 years old to like 17. So, like about a 15-year gap of just being the worst dancer ever. I mean, um, so there was that, but then there was like, okay, I keep dancing. And so when I joined the Navy, I wasn't really doing stunt work at the time, but I did, have like a martial arts background. So that was kind of lucky for me. And I had like some origins of cosplaying when I was still in school back in the day, like, in the early 2000s, which was not very big thing in the States at the time. So once I joined the Navy, I was kind of on my own, because I came from like a very strict, family household where if I was dancing, my mother hated it because she's like, "Oh my God, dancing is for so and so's, and you can't dance. You're not supposed to dance." And I was like in the marching band, so in the South, like drumline, it's like a big thing. Like if you're in the marching band, especially if you're a percussionist, you have to dance. There is like no way around that. Like they kick you out of the line if you can't dance. You know what I mean? So I remember being like, you know, we're having sectionals tomorrow. If you can't dance your dance properly, we're kicking you out of the section. You're gonna go and blow horns. You're gonna go and blow woodwinds, and you're just gonna go blow pipe for the rest of your time in the band. And I'm like, oh my God! So I went home, and it's a funny story. I need some dancing music. I need to practice. I'm in my room. I turn on my PlayStation. I put like music CDs in and just start playing music, and I'm just trying to dance. And the only songs I had to dance to were literally Elvis. So I don't know what the fuck I was thinking in that one. So I'm like, I'm gonna be dancing to Elvis all night because I cannot mess this up. I don't want to get kicked out of the section. So I'm dancing to Elvis for the whole night. I get there the next day, and I just kind of kill it in the dancing. And they're like, okay, so you went from having no rhythm and no dance to now you're like the greatest dancer ever. What happened? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what happened. Maybe I'm just sleepy, and it just kind of took off from there. But when it came to doing like stunts, stunts I started doing when I did wrestling. So when I started doing professional wrestling, of course, that is literally nothing but a stunt gig, like every way, shape, or form. So I got a lot of really good technical training out of it, doing bumps, being able to, do coast to coast, which is running and bouncing off the ropes repeatedly. And I mean, that is a very tiring exercise, by the way. That is murder. I would rather run miles than do that again. But like learning how to take falls, learning how to take hits and things of that nature. Of course, you're going to get hit and you're going to mess up your falls and you're going to get you're going to get messed up sometimes, but it's good training to know how to be able to take hits and deliver hits and pull punches and things of that nature. So I had to learn all that in wrestling. And being with my martial arts background, it only helped because I mean I knew how to hit people, but I didn't know how to not hit people, if that makes sense. So I had to learn how to not hit people properly. And then when I learned that, it just kind of made my skills better. So then, I'm still dancing, still dancing, still dancing. Believe it or not, what led me to doing stunt work was cosplaying. And I mean, you guys saw on Twitter, I started uploading some cosplay photos of me doing Sentai cosplay and stuff. That's actually what led me to doing stunt work in Japan because it was cosplaying, and all the people I met from there. Where it ended up being that a friend of mine that I knew from cosplaying was like, "Hey, dude, there's this guy in Japan. He's shooting a movie right now, and he's looking for people. So you should contact this guy and hit him up." So I'm like, "Okay," and he's like, "Here's his number," and he just tosses me the number. I'm like, "All right, I'm there. Let's do this." So I call him up and he's like, all right, so I'm shooting on Saturday at like really early in the morning. I want you to be there. So then I go on set and then he's kind of having me just run around being a stagehand. So I wasn't doing any action or anything. I was just kind of like, I'm there. Oh, I need you to hold this camera. Oh, I need you to hold this for me. I need you to fan me off because I'm cold. I'm hot. Or okay, I need you to give me my jacket. I'm cold. Kind of stuff. And so I'm watching how like this dude is making toku, and it's just like, oh, this is how this stuff is made. Oh, that's kind of cool. And that eventually came to me. And it's like, hey, do you know anything? You can you fight? I'm like, I'm a martial artist, and then he's like, dope. Go out there. You're gonna do a scene, and I'm like, okay. So then, like, now I have to like actually go through. Okay, this is how you do a fight in Toku, and it was like really interesting to learn because I had never done this before. So the way that they were doing it is almost like choreographing a dance, where like he'll walk up and say high, high, mid, and I'm like, does that mean? Like I'm sitting there staring at the guy like, I don't know what that means. He's like, high, high, mid. Swing high, you know, punch or kick mid. And I'm like, oh. So now, like I'm like, okay, the cogs are starting to turn. So then I started learning this. And then once you get like so much of a sequence done when okay, high, mid, low, this, that, and the other, dodge, swing, you do that, and then you just keep doing it over and over again till you go from like doing it at like 50% speed to doing it at like full speed. And you keep doing it until then it's like, okay, full speed, looks good, camera's rolling, do it. And then you go right through it, and it's almost like literally a dance. It's a dance. And so I'm starting to learn this, and I'm like, holy crap, this is epic, this is amazing. And it's like, okay, you can fight. Can you do like tricks or anything? I'm like, yeah, I used to do some wrestling and stuff, so I can, do some break falls and this, that, and the other. Okay, cool. We need you to like do some break falls. Then that started that. So then that went from that to this and to that. So everything kind of led to another thing. And then once that happened, then he's like, okay, hey, you know what? I'm going to start training you. I'm going to take you to people who do this for a living, and they're going to start training you. So I ended up like by the end of it, training with Takaiwa Seiji, who is Mr. Kamen Rider himself, who was like literally my teacher. Then the suit actor for Kamen Rider Impaler in Ryuki was also like my senpai who was teaching me stuff. And then also uh, Yokoyama Makoto, who is also, like the main guy for Power Rangers in the States, and a lot of stuff that he did, especially with like space and Lost Galaxy and all those, like that was him, what I'm saying? So like that guy, he was also training me with his entire staff. And they're like, hey, man, you're going to learn stuff the way that we do it and how to properly do it. You're going to know how to do flips. You're going to have to do kicks, everything. So I really had to put my body on the line. And I mean, I had my physical limitations with the disabilities and the injuries that I've had collected over the years from my military career, which makes it a little bit harder, but it put more of a pressure on me to be like, hey, dude, all these guys are showing you out. You're the only foreigner here. You better show your ass, pretty much. You better get out there and do it, because if you don't, they're going to think you're trash. They're going to think you're a joke. You're going to get booted out, and you're pretty much just close the door for like all foreigners. It's almost like that kind of a weighted pressure on me. It was like, look, you're the only foreigner here, and this and the other. And so one of the things that I ended up doing was when I was training with Takaiwa Sensei, he ended up getting to the point where he was like, he would ask for me a name. So I'm like, wait, Mr. Kamen Rider's asking for me? Of all people? Not any other Japanese? Me? And he's like, yeah. So like now, like sometimes we do shoots with him and stuff like that. And every time he has a shoot coming up, he'll ask, is Michael coming? Is Michael coming? Is Michael coming? And I'm like, okay, I'm honored. Mr. Kamen Rider himself is asking for me. I've done something right. Something. And it's like, I don't know what that is, but I've done something to where I've caught his eye, and I've earned his respect. And, so in Japan right now, there's only 3 like black stuntmen, and I'm at the bottom of the list because I haven't been in the game as long as everybody else has, and I don't have the same looks that everybody else has, and like everybody's been doing it longer than me. So it's kind of a familiarity thing where it's like, well, we know him and we know him, so we're going to go to them first before we ever consider you being there. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, for me, most of my work has been through the independent circuit as opposed to the big names official channels. So that's kind of how all of that led one thing to another. So it was kind of like dancing, cosplay led to stunt work led to me, taking off my career with that. And also, I'm a big Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Hong Kong cinema fan. So, I literally use those guys as motivation because I mean, if they could do it, anybody could do it, right?
No, that's actually good. Uh, what I was gonna ask, since you talked about your mentors and stuff, is which schools or which training facilities do you actually train at? Because I know there's like Alpha Stunts, there's all these other groups in Japan. So like, I'm guessing you mostly work for Alpha Stunts, or do they have a different name in Japan? Because I know Alpha Stunts is like Power Rangers, but I don't know if they're still the same. They still work with the. It's confusing for me, so you're gonna have to walk me through this.
Right. So, like right now, I'm with what is called AAC, and that's Yokoyama's gym,
All
and
right.
that's kind of the only gym I'm with at the moment. I haven't really gone to anybody else. And they're pretty cool because not only do they do like, okay, we're going to do trainings and stuff, but then also if you are per se a tourist and you come to Japan, you can actually go to their gym and they'll do like wire action with you. Like they'll like hook you up to wires and have you do that, and they'll film it for you, and you can take it home and show people like, yo, I did this. You know what I mean? Like it's a really cool business and a pretty cool gimmick, and it's actually like like super affordable. It's not like it's going to break your bank or you got to pay like hundreds of dollars to do this.
All right. Yeah, because I know there's like at least two or three major ones. Like, how many actual stunt acting studios are there that you know of in Japan too? On top of that, like, how many do you like estimate are there that are like well known and usually recruited to be used for obviously these tokusatsu productions and films and whatnot?
There's a lot of them. Like, I mean, you have your small times and you have your big time. With the big time, there are quite a few of them, and there's different ones for different things. I think, like, what is it? It's what is it? I think JEA. That's the one that's doing like Geats right now.
Yeah, I believe it's JEA because I remember Takaiwa used to work there, or he still does. I'm very confused by the whole
So like
situation.
I re- and, we've had to and yeah, we've had to work with them a few times on Geats, because whenever they do a stunt, well, like anything action, they're like they'll be on set, and then there's always like the head guy and then like one of the girls, and they're always there. So then it's like, okay, we want you to do this, or you're gonna do this, or you're gonna do that. So like that one scene where we like where we get separate, the one where Tom's in the dress and we get separated from Neon, like that
Yeah.
was like, okay, JA is on set for that, like they have to be on set for that because you're going to do a stunt. So if you're going to do a stunt, then the stunt people have to be there to make sure you're good to go, like that you're doing it properly and that you're, not hurting yourself while doing the stunt. And I've built a rapport with them now that we've done so many shoots together now. Where it's just kind of like, okay, hey, they know me, they know Tom. Well, of course they know Tom, but now they know me, and they're just like, oh, hey, Mike, hey, we're doing this today. You ready? And I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And they're like, all right, not too worried about you, but you got it, and then just kind of, hey, go off and do your thing. And so there's a lot of like stunt. There's a lot of stunt gyms and stunt classes out there. So it's kind of like, where do you want to go? Because there
Uh,
are some that are like, I want to be professional. I want to, do the real deal. And then there's some where it's like, I'm doing this as a hobby, or I'm doing this for, staying in shape, or I'm doing this for fun. So it kind of depends on the avenue in which you want to go, which one you would actually go to.
all right. Uh, when it comes to your mentors, which one have you spent the most time with for training? Which one would you think you've done most of your tutelage under, in a sense?
Hmm. About 50-50 with Takaiwa and Yokoyama. Because
Okay.
Yokoyama, I've been with his gym for a while. I joined his gym back in, I believe 2020. And Takaiwa, I've just gone to his gym a lot, or where I've gone to his classes a lot, where, like on and off whenever I had time when I wasn't working or had a full schedule. And I'm like, okay, I'm able to go. It's time for training. Let's go, kind of thing. So, time wise, I've actually spent more time with Yokoyama at an AAC than I have in any other place. So, that'll kind of answer that question where I'm always at AAC the most.
All right. Uh, all right. This is the next one before we go on break. You do a lot of background work besides stunts. Was that just a career choice? Are the roles in Japan rather limited? And feel free to talk about issues with being a foreigner in Japan and being an actor, since you mentioned to me about how fittings are a major problem, especially when you're a foreigner in Japan.
Yeah, so definitely I do the independent. I do the indie toku sect in the sector of that. But then there's also like, okay, I still do acting. I'm still an actor, so I do drama and comedy and stuff like that. I've done horror and different genres. But what makes it really interesting is it's like in Japan, it's kind of like either you are independent and you kind of get your gigs on your own, or you go through what is like talent agencies and then they get you jobs. So they'll kind of like, hey, there's this job coming up. You need to audition. Audition's going to be here, going to be there. Show up and do this. Or sometimes it's just photo selection. So sometimes you don't even need to show up and do anything. It's just kind of like, we're going to send your pictures in, or we're going to send your videos in, and then if they want you, they want you. If they don't, they don't. So for me, for a long time, because I was signed up to about 5 different agencies, kind of like because they're all mainly for foreign talent, and I remember just constantly, oh, there's this job coming up, there's this job coming up, there's this job coming up, and I'm like, all right, I'm auditioning, I'm auditioning, I'm auditioning, and one of the things about auditioning is that most of the time you have to go to them to audition. So, you're using time and money, but you're not getting any of that back. So if you don't get that job, you're just out of money and you're out of time. You know what I mean? Like you're going to lose that. So it becomes almost very frustrating if you're like, I'm going to go do this audition. I'm putting my all into doing this audition, and then they're like, yeah, better luck next time, and then that's it. That's it. Hey, well, you weren't selected this time. Better luck next time. And I could, I can show you guys one day if you would like. I have hundreds, if not thousands, of emails of me just, hey, this job, you didn't get it. Better luck next time. I have hundreds of those emails, just stuff. Well, maybe next time, maybe next time, maybe next time. And it got to the point where it was super frustrating. So when I did get jobs, I'm like, okay, I'm there. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability because I'm going to make sure they remember my name and they're going to remember who I am and this, that, and the other. And it's become a kind of a thing where sometimes I might do a job and like one of the directors or producers on set is someone I've actually done something for before. And they're like, I remember you. You're Michael. Yo, hey, long time no see. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, yo, you're here too? And it's like, all right, hey, good to work together again. Hey, yo, let's do this. And it's kind of like building rapport with, different people and different producers and different directors and different coordinators on and off, right? And sometimes, and in Japan, believe it or not, that actually matters way more than just like, I have the coolest resume ever. You know what I mean? Like, usually be like, oh, this is your resume. Oh, this speaks volumes. We want you. Here, it's kind of like, I know that guy. I've worked with that guy. That guy's awesome. Hire him. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, this guy's done like 50 videos for me. Yeah, like let's use that guy. So it's a big thing in Japan, and also, like, yeah, social media is prevalent here, but word of mouth here is one of the biggest things you could ever have. So just someone speaking your name, like, hey, I know that guy. That guy is good to go. Will get you into more doors than anything else. Like once you get into that door, though, you have to step through. So you have to show your stuff because then it's like egg on their face if you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they
And
kind
so
of put themselves out there for you because they're like, oh, hey, I know this guy, he's good, and then you got to kind of live up to that
right,
hype in a way, right?
right. Right, and sometimes it's pressure, like sometimes it has that pressure where you're like, oh man, this dude put his neck out for me. Yo, I gotta go out there and I gotta show my stuff. I gotta be on time. I gotta be early. I gotta be, I gotta be prompt. I gotta be precise. I gotta make sure that they're not calling my name for negative reasons. I gotta make sure that I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to make this shoot a lot better in any way that I possibly can. And so, that becomes a thing. And so for me, I was like, okay, I got to do like music videos. I got to do commercials. I did a lot of commercials, which was kind of like where I got my start in acting in Japan, was doing a lot of commercials and live events. So I say one of the biggest events I've ever done as a performer was, if you know who AKB48 is, I
Unfortunately.
was I was actually in their biggest concert at the time dancing on stage with them. You know what I mean? So I was one of their dancers. So they went out and they're like, okay, we need all these dancers. And we like, there was like a big boom. And a buddy of mine is a really famous DJ in Japan. So he hits me up and he's like, dude, I need you to come do this job. Like, this is going to be the job. You need to do this. And I'm like, all right, I'm there. Why not? I could use the job. And so it was the craziest thing ever because like I had all these Japanese dancers, but then they only picked 5 black dancers to be on stage to do this gig, and I was one of the 5. And they're like, okay, you're gonna be here, you're gonna be here, you're gonna be here, and they're like, Mike, you're center stage, so you're gonna be right in the middle in front of everybody doing this job. We rocked it, and funny story, uh, costuming. So I had a wardrobe malfunction on stage during this concert, and it was the funniest thing ever because whenever you do a gig in Japan, most of the times costume is going to be like, hey, we need your sizes, so you have to go and get measured and make sure everything is good to go, but they make you do that on your own. Sometimes they'll measure you, but most of the time it's on your own. And so I send in my sizes and I'm like, okay, these are 2 to T, these are my sizes, and they're like, okay, cool. So I'm like wearing this like funky temptation style suit, like red shirt with the velvet and all that, the Bruno Mars Silk Sonic thing, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I'm all funky and everything. I got my afro picked out, like I had a big afro at the time. And we're on stage, and then I remember like the costume lady, she was so nice. I actually felt bad for her, but she was like the sweetest lady ever. She's like, oh, hey, here's your costume. And she's like, how does it fit? And I'm like, it's a little tight in the thighs. And she's like, oh, well, can you manage with that? And I'm like, yeah, I'll make do. And she's like, please don't rip my costume. I'm like, I'll try not to. Like she just kept saying that to me. Like she'd be like walking down the hall and she'll see me, hey Mike, don't rip my costume. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try not to. Sorry, like I got you. Showtime. We're going out there. Me and my buddy were dancing. Tricky Troubles. He's a really famous Canadian breakdancer. Dude's legendary. And me and him were like partnered up. So we're like dancing and we're doing our stuff. We're breakdancing, and I'm a locker. I like doing locking and stuff. So I'm doing locking. And one of my biggest things about locking that I do, and you see it in my videos, I do splits.
Oh no.
I do splits. So I did like these jumping splits where I'm jumping like 6 feet in the air and bam, like jumping up and slamming on the stage, and I'm sliding back up. And when I did it, it ripped my pants from my knee all the way up to my crotch. So I'm dancing in front of 60,000, 70, 80,000 people with a big hole in my pants and my crotch just all showing for the world to see. and so we killed the show. Like it was great. Like it was like we rocked the house. So we come back, everybody's looking at me like, Mike, really? And I'm like, they're like, when did this happen? I'm like, right when we started dancing. So I had to do the whole dance with like a big hole in my pants. I mean, it was a gaping hole. It was the most hilarious thing ever. Because the seaming
I hope there's footage. I hope there's epic footage of people in the front row just going, "Oh my god, his junk's out."
Thank goodness my junk wasn't out. Oh my god, I'm so happy my junk wasn't out. But you can see my boxers and stuff. But it was the funniest thing ever because I mean, like, it was from my knee all the way up to literally where the zipper was. Like that whole inseam came out, just ripped open. And so, we go when we're backstage and we're like, okay, we did it, guys. We did it. We're taking pictures, casting pictures and stuff. Like, yeah, we did it. Blah, blah, blah. We're celebrating, having a drink or two, joking around. And then I go to the costume lady and I'm just like, I'm sorry. And she's just like laughing at me. Like she couldn't contain herself, but she's like beat red like my shirt and she's just dying. And she's just like, it's totally cool. It's fine. You're great. You're awesome. And I'm just like, so then like before we like gave the costumes back, I was like taking pictures where I'm all like posing. I'm all like, like showing off the whole. It was the funniest thing ever. It was eventful. And so it's things like that. But when it comes to like casting and stuff, one of the things that it was big for me is that growing up in America, you'd see a lot of like representation in the media, and one of the things for me was whenever I was watching television, like for black guys or like black characters if they're men, our representation was rapper, drug dealer, some type of a sports ball player of any kind, and or something just very kind of negative, but nothing in a light where it's like, oh, he's a doctor, he's a judge, he's a politician or something. You know what I mean? Nothing that was like a positive impact on other people, or something that would better the community. It was just always something really, really negative. And so when I started acting in Japan, it was kind of that same thing. Whenever I would get casted in roles, it was like, hey, so we're doing this documentary about this famous rock star in Japan who pretty much messed his life up because he was a druggie. You're going to be his drug dealer. Congratulations. I'm like, what the I don't want this job. So I'm sitting on camera, hey man, you want some drugs? Like, I don't want to do this job. And it sucks, but it's like, I need the job because I really need to build my resume here. But it's like, I really don't want to do this job.
Yeah, you don't want to get typecast.
Right, and that's what ended up happening was I got typecasted. I was pretty much Hector, in the stage. He's always the cholo, gangster, and like everything he's in. I was pretty much that guy. I was like, okay, I'm in this. I'm a drug dealer. I'm in this. I'm another drug dealer. Or I'm in this. I'm an arms dealer. I'm like, bro, I don't want to do this. Like, so it got to the point where every time they came up, oh yeah, we want you to do this and that and the other. The only most positive role I got at the time was when they casted me to be Drogba as a soccer player in this like commercial. That was like the most positive thing I could ever have been at the time. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So they started coming up with jobs. Hey, we want you to do this job. We want you to do this job. And usually when they hit you up with jobs, you have to kind of like confirm your schedule. You have to tell them things. Okay, I'm in it or I'm not, this, that, the other. I just got to the point where I just stopped replying. I'm just like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. And so me doing that was kind of me taking a stand saying, I'm not going to keep doing these crappy roles that you keep typecasting me in. And so I got blacklisted. It just shut me down. They were just like, okay, you're never getting another job again for however long. And a couple of my agencies pretty much gave me the boot. They were just like, oh, yeah, get out. Psh, we don't want you. So kind of me standing up saying, I'm not going to do this because I don't like the way that I'm being put out there to be, typecasted and represented. Just really, I guess, struck a nerve with them because it's kind of like, when you look at like a lot of black entertainment in Japan, you look at the negatives or like, in Japan, what they see on TV is what they believe. So if you're a gangster, violent drug dealer, anything of that nature, they're going to look at you and they're going to believe that. Like, you might be walking down the street and the police are going to stop you and like, you got drugs. And it's like, no, I don't. I'm just a regular office worker. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a salaryman. I have nothing to do with drugs, dude. I don't even have the time for them. But they're like, nope, 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 nope. We know you're kind, because of what they see on television. So for me, getting booted out of the industry kind of sucked because I'm just like, man, I could have used those jobs and this, that, and the other. And every time it was like a positive role, and I auditioned for it, I would never get it. They were just like, yeah, no, we don't want you. We want somebody else. And I'm like, so you want me for negative roles, but you don't want me for positive roles. And I'm like, I'm good. You can have that. So, I left, I got blacklisted for maybe like a good 4 years, 4.5, 5 years almost. And then when I came back to, acting and stuff, I started getting more positive roles like, oh, I'm a musician, I was like a guy, I got casted as a guy who saved this lady's life, like I was a lifesaver. I was a trash collector who found this lady who was unconscious and, like the dog finds her. And, I started getting more positive roles. I was a guy who witnessed the Kennedy assassination. I was a factory worker. I was a blue collar worker. So now I'm getting these roles where it's like, hey, I get to be somebody in a positive light. And it took me years to get to that point, but I was just, it was just surprising that it was like, oh, like the change was just like, boom, like it was like, hey man, I don't want to do this anymore. Give me something more positive. And now if something comes up and it's like, oh, we want you to kind of do this negative role, depending on what the role is, I'm like, yes or no, like in Toku, I'm a villain. I enjoy that all the time. Being a villain is just fun, because I'm a suit actor. So I wear the suits. I'm the monster. I'm the kaijin. I enjoy doing those jobs. Those jobs are just completely fun, to do because there's no rules, there's no boundaries. Just do whatever you want. Just make it look good. And it's like, okay, cool, I can do this. But if it's like, hey man, I want you to go out and be this drug dealer, I'm going to be like, no, dude, kick rocks. Don't want to do that. So that was kind of one of the things. And I think one of my breaking points, and there's a story I told to you, Wheels, before was I was casted to be in this commercial that was starring the singers from Arashi, which is one of Johnny's biggest, biggest talents. And so, they have us come in at like 5 o'clock in the morning to be on set, and we sat around for like 2 hours before we even started to do anything. And then they're like, okay, so this is going to be this is like in the boom of Les Miserables. So this is like when Les Miserables was really popular, so they wanted to do a French Renaissance, French Renaissance setting. So we had it during the French Revolution, and had the stage all set up for it, and this, that, and the other. I'll send you the link to it later, like you can see it for yourself. It's still on YouTube. It's pretty funny. So we're doing costuming, and then they come and everybody's wearing all these like fancy posh clothes and things. It was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I get to wear that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm down for this. So then it's my turn, and they come up with like this, like it was almost like burlap sack material, but it was just like a cotton shirt and like some Huckleberry Finn pants. You know what I mean? Like they came up halfway up my shins. Like they were just the weirdest thing ever. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can wear this. Yeah, okay, cool. Where's the socks and the shoes? And they're like, we don't have any shoes. So I'm like, what the? So you just got me walking around in this with no shoes on. And I mean, it's kind of like equivalent of like walking around looking like a hobbit, but like a slave hobbit, if anything. Like I was running around pretty much looking like a Negro slave. And then they came up and they put some dirt on my face and oil.
Oh no, the audio cut out on his side.
Oh no, he froze.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. The interview didn't like the fact that he was talking about actual racial issues he dealt with. Oh no. Oh no.
It froze right as you said that they were putting dirt on your face.
We got him back.
He's back. He should be back.
Okay.
Am I here?
Yes, you're here.
Yeah, okay. Start back at they put dirt on your face, because that's when just like
right when they put dirt on your face. Went, that's when it went.
Right, so they put dirt on my face, and then that like baby oil, like oiled my face up. So I'm all like dirty and oiled up, like I'm like a sweating slave, and I'm like, bro. And then they picked my hair out, my afro out, and then they made it all messy. So I was running around literally looking like a Negro slave from like the 1800s or the 1700s, and in the Americas. And it was like, yeah, this is the perfect costume. You're gonna wear this, and I'm like, bro, are you serious right now? Like, I'm not wearing this. And they're like, you got to do it. You're already here. You need to do it, and this, that, and the other. Otherwise, there's gonna be a lot of trouble. And I'm like, oh my god. So I actually did the whole commercial with like looking like a Negro slave with no shoes. Everybody on set had shoes except for me.
Damn, that's awful,
bro. So, I was like so upset about that.
So before we go fully into intermission, what do you think caused your ability to like actually bounce back? Like, what do you think changed it? Was it the Tokusatsu work, or was it just that the environment changed where they weren't giving you a lot of these typecasted roles, like these horrible like stereotypes and racial depictions? Like, what do you think was the cause of you being able to bounce back from the blacklisting?
Well, one of them was, in a weird way, I left Japan for about 2 years.
All right.
And when am I here?
Yeah,
you're here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I left Japan for about 2 years. And in that 2 years that I left Japan, I pretty much moved around Southeast Asia for a while. So I was living in Singapore, living in Malaysia, living in Indonesia, living in like Taiwan and the Philippines, right? And one of the things that kind of, I guess you could call it almost like a journey of like self-discovery and self-reflection while I was on this, while I was moving around. And I remember like I was living in Singapore. It was kind of like my main place at the time, but I was going to like other places, staying there and then coming back, and vice versa. So at the time, I met a lot of people from around Asia and stuff, and people just seemed to have taken a liking to me because they were like, oh, you're a very entertaining person. Like, you have this warm personality, but you're very entertaining. And I remember like a lot of people from India would like come to me and be like, are you ever planning on moving to India? And I'm like, no, why? And they're like, because if you came to Bollywood, you would be like epic. Like people would love you. Like you would be famous. And it's like if one or two people say it, you're kind of like, okay, nice, thank you. That's a nice compliment. But it was like every person I ever met from India, and I met hundreds, if not thousands, of people during the time I was living there, were saying this to me. So it was like this was a thing. Like if you come to Bollywood, you be epic. People would love you because you kind of look like us, we know you're not one of us. But at the same time, you're just so charming, and so you have like a handsome appeal, but you're very nice, you're very entertaining. You can dance, you can sing, you can do all these things. So it would be so cool if you ever came to Bollywood because everybody would love you. And I was like, oh, okay, like kind of now you're kind of pushing me into that. And then after that, I was on like a reality TV show for dancing. And then I did that. And it was kind of like I was on a few episodes and then I got voted off. But during that time I was there, my personality really, really stood out because people were noticing who I was. Because, they do interviews and they're like, okay, we're down to the final 32, we're down to the final 16, we're down to the final 8, the final 4, the final 2, winner. And so I remember having to do an interview when we got to like I think the final 16, and they were kind of like asking all the contestants, hey, why are you doing this, why are you on this show? And a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be famous, oh, I want the prize money, I want to win, I want to do this and that and the other. And then they got to me and it was my interview, and then they were like, hey, why are you doing this, what is your reason for being on this show? And I was like, I just want to eat. That was all I said. Like I didn't say anything else, but I just want to eat. And everybody stopped what they were doing and just kind of stared at me like, what? Like, you're
Didn't
not
get
here to
the
be
the
famous
lingo.
and this, that, and the other? Well, it's not that they didn't get the lingo. They were shocked because, everybody had these like superficial reasons. And I mean, I guess you can call them superficial. I don't think they're superficial. It's following your dreams, right? So if this is your dream, hey, man, go for it. But for me, at the time, I'm like, hey, man, I don't got a job. I'm not I don't have anything. I'm not doing much of anything. I'm just kind of a nobody right now. So if I actually succeed in this show, then I have a chance to be someone or make something of myself. So I'm like, man, hey, I'm just trying to get the next meal. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to eat right now because this is going to help me get to the next, my next stage or my next level. And so saying that, people kind of saw me in a different light because they're like, oh, he's just a fun loving guy. He's goofy. He makes a lot of jokes. He's cool. He's all suave. But then when they saw that, they were like, oh, this guy is actually pretty deep. Like he's something different. And so after I left that show, I really didn't do too much in entertainment except, hook up with some people here and there for like different gigs and different events and learning stuff on and off. And then I moved to Malaysia. And before I moved to Malaysia, I was living in the Philippines. And in the Philippines is where I really saw, like, you know what, these people have, like, because you kind of look at Philippines as like a third world country, right? Almost like a third world country, second world country, however you want to look at it. But it's not
Mhm.
very first world unless you're in Manila. But when I was out, living and kind of pretty much living in the boonies, I really saw, like people who are like, hey, they're very talented, but this is just like their everyday lives. You know what I mean? Like they're great dancers, they're great singers, and this and the other. And it's kind of like when I look at like people of Philippine descent, I'm like, these guys are pretty much like the black people of Asia because they can sing, they can dance, they're extremely talented, but they're so underrated because just nobody knows what how good they actually are at stuff. Because I mean, of course, you're not going to look at the Philippines as like, oh, this is one of the most richest countries ever. Everybody knows the Philippines, but you're not going to be like, oh, that's one of the most richest countries ever. It's not the same as like being the United States or the UK or being like in Singapore or something. It's totally different. So it's a very poor country, but they are very rich in talent. They're very rich in soul, very rich people, like with their personalities and stuff. And so just kind of being out there was kind of like hey, dude, you have a gift. You need to use that gift. It was kind of an introspective moment for me. So then when I moved to Malaysia, the first thing I did was I started up a theater production with some friends, and we were doing theater stage. And I love theater. I've had a background in that, so I'm like, hey, let me go ahead and just do this because why not? I'm going to learn stuff here. I'm learning how to do, I pretty much became a producer. So I'm like out there just putting myself out in the media. Hey, this is what you're going to do. I'm on the radio doing interviews. I'm out, doing press kits, meeting different universities and things, and just talking to people and like, hey, you want to do this, love art, do this and the other because art is great. This is like a good way of expressing yourself. So then I went from that to, hey, we have another production. We want you to be on stage. We want you to act in this one. And so it was called On a Starry Night, which was kind of like the story of the birth of Christ. But it's like not the main story. It's like something that's happening somewhere else that kind of ties into the story. And they pretty much casted me to be the devil for it, which by all means was one of my best roles ever. I enjoyed that job. I enjoyed that role just 100%. It was like my favorite role because, everybody's walking around in shepherd's clothing and, centurion clothing and all that other stuff. But then you got me walking around in a three-piece, tuxedo with the tail, walking around with like headphones and a Walkman on. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm the devil. So like, my introduction was like one of the most amazing things ever because they like, okay, when you come on stage, there's gonna be music playing, you're gonna dance, you're gonna do your little thing and this and the other. So it's kind of like Bob Fosse's Snake in the Grass kind of style, if you know Bob Fosse. So it was kind of like that. So I come out and it's What If God Was One of Us, that song. So this song is playing and I'm walking out in all this red light and I think there's this red light and all this smoke and everything, and I'm out there dancing. And then I come in and I do my thing. And people were like, and as a producer, when we did all of our shows and we finished, they were like, "Hey, who was your favorite character and why was he your favorite character?" And then everybody just kept saying, "Lucifer was my favorite character because there was just something about him. Like I didn't hate him because he was the devil. I actually kind of felt bad for him, but then I understood him because it actually makes sense." And I'm like, "Oh, I made people think. In your face, take that. I made the devil awesome. Like you guys owe me." So taking that, it was really like another introspective moment for me where like, okay, if you do this, you can touch people, you can talk to people, you can communicate with people. Go back into it. Don't walk away from this just because you had some bad experiences or you had bad things going on. So when I came back to Japan, I was just like, all right, let's do it. So, like the AKB job was like my first job. And it was like, okay, let's go from there. Let's build off of this. And the rest is history, you could say. Like, this is where it led me to.
All right. So that was a good place to, I guess, stop till we go into our, for our little intermission here to see what everyone's saying in the chat.
Those are a lot of great stories, honestly. It's like I love hearing about like the different entertainment industries of where you've worked and everything, and how sort of like there's you got some similarities but a lot of differences depending on where you're working at.
Because it's one of those things where it's one of those things where people only see you for what they see either on television or on social media or on the internet. They're not going to know who you actually are until you show them who you are. And that's kind of one of the things where it's like, like my boss with my this is my dance school, by the way. I'm just wearing the shirt representing, hey, but my boss of that company, he's from Miami, and he's been working in the entertainment industry in Japan for like over 30 years. So he's seen the ins and outs, the ups and downs of everything. But he always says, he always gives me really good advice to work by and to live by when I lived here, that no matter what you do, people are always watching you. So always make sure that you're the kind of person people want to actually see. You know what I mean? Like people are always looking, always be on your game. And that has actually stuck with me because now the more and more I do stuff, the more and more I see people are actually watching me and noticing me. Strangely, no one has actually noticed that I'm Ben from Kamen Rider, so that's kind of cool. But but everything else, people are like, "Oh, that guy, he looks interesting." So yeah, like I show people who I am, and people end up warming up to me because at first they look at me and they're like, "Oh, it's a big black guy. He's like 6'2", he's tall, he's scary, he looks angry." But me, I'm just in my head, I might be thinking, "Man, I really want to eat some cheese pizza, man. Like I like cheese pizza. That stuff is so great." But in my face, I'm looking like a serial killer. So people are like, "Oh my God, this dude looks angry. I'm not going to talk to him." But then, like, you talk to me and you get to know me, and you're just like, "This dude's cool. Like, I like this guy. Like, this guy's awesome. I want to talk to him more. Yo, hey, yo, let's hang out somewhere. Let's do this. Let's do that." And it really speaks volumes on your character. If you can get people to really warm up to you even though they're afraid of you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. So it's kind of been that experience for me living in Japan. And I've been in Japan like 10 years now.
All right. For our new people in the chat, thank you for joining us. So how the format is that after every couple of questions that we have already written, we'll be getting to your questions. So don't worry, people, if you wrote a question, we aren't ignoring you. We just have a format. This is our first live stream where we're doing our questions first, and then we'll get to some of yours. In that case being, Toma, can you read the one that Ware asked when his computer got locked into cap lock, please? The one that Werewolf Finder asked for us?
Did you leave it in all caps?
Yeah, he left it. Toma just copied.
Why are you yelling?
And then he's like freaking out. It's like, oh, my dang keyboard and stuff. But
Like,
he was like,
Blarg.
yep. What's the biggest difference in acting or entertaining in Japan as opposed to when, like, say, in America? If you've done any acting or performing in America?
Yeah, so in America, one of the things that like I thought was interesting is like when you're learning about, working in entertainment, there's kind of a format that they teach you from, which is like if you were doing a Hollywood movie with a Hollywood budget of at least millions of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of everybody goes through that same kind of mentality. Okay, this is $1 million budget. This is how you do it. We're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of people doing different things all over the place and this and the other. And so I guess like even working in Toku or before I got to Toei, it was kind of like, hey man, it's just 5 of us. We're all doing all this stuff. And, like we don't have a budget. You know what I mean? Like we don't have any money at all. We're all broke, So in Japan, everything's kind of we wrote it down. We said we were going to do this, so we're going to do it just like this. We're going to take like, 10 to 15 minutes, about 20 minutes per shot because we want to make sure like we're going to walk through it and talk through it. And then we're going to walk through it again. And we're going to walk through it again to make sure we got everything perfectly. And then we're going to shoot it. And then we're going to shoot it. And then we're going to shoot it. And we're going to shoot it. And then it's like, okay, we're good. And then move on to the next thing. Whereas like in the States, when I've kind of worked with it, it's a little more laid back where it's not as like, oh, we have to do it this way. It's to the T, this and the other. It's kind of like, there's room for flexibility. In Japan, It's more, it has to be precise. It has to be perfect. We have to do it this way because this is the rules. Whereas like in the States, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to try it this way. Oh, okay, this way didn't work. Okay, let's try another way. Let's see if that works better. You know what I mean? Like there's flexibility. Like if things don't work the way that you wanted it to or the way that you planned it to, you can still keep it moving. Whereas like in Japan, it's kind of like things are not working the way we wanted to. Well, to hell with that. We're going to keep trying until it works. You know what I mean? It's like, we're going to stay on this. We're going to stay doing it this way. So there's more flexibility in America, I think.
Yeah. Yatsuda said it's crazy the amount of situations you went through, but it's great to see that you appear to have built a really great mindset for your career and how you see your work. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been through a lot of stuff, just in life in general. And, like no matter if I'm a movie star, if I'm a famous singer, rapper, a professional athlete, or any of that stuff, if I was a millionaire or a billionaire, it wouldn't change the fact that I'm still a human being at the end of the day. And that, just like you, I go through stuff as well. I've been through things. I've had experiences, good and bad. I live just like you live. I put my pants on maybe just like you put yours on. Maybe you put yours on a different way than I do, but still, we both wear pants. We both wear socks. We both wear shoes. We both bleed the same color. We both live and breathe the same air. We eat the same kind of foods, so it's kind of one of those never forget where you came from, but never forget who you are kind of things because those things do matter because sometimes people, and I've gone through this just with some of my own people in Japan and, other entertainers where I'm like, hey, I want to be like you. Can you teach me what you did that, help you get to where you are? And they would literally 100% blow me off and be like, you're not going to steal my shine. You're not going to steal my thunder. I worked hard for this, and the other. I'm like, hey, I don't want your place. I just want to learn what you did. I want to learn your experience. Please teach me your experiences. And they're like, no, I don't want to. No, go away, kind of thing where it's like when people come to me, hey man, what was your experience? I'm like, dude, Do you drink? Yes, I do. Sit down. I got some stories for you. Here, have a beer. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna talk, because that's how it is. And it's like, for everybody that's blowing me up on Twitter, I will get to your messages. I promise. I will reply to each one of you. I promise. Just give me some time. I'm kind of going through working and getting everything ready for the holidays, and then I'm going to be flying to the States. So I will take care of that. I promise you. I will reply to all of you. Just let me know.
Sorry, I was the first one to out you as Michael Kinder.
You know what, man? You made me go viral. Fight me. Like, catch these hands. Like,
I just remember everyone when like the image came out of you and Tom with your ID card, everyone was like, "Oh my god, a white man and a black man in Kamen Rider," and I was like, "How about you go follow the black man that's in Kamen Rider?" And everyone was like, "Oh, he's got a Twitter? I just thought it was Tom who had." I'm like, "Yes, he has a Twitter. Go follow."
Luckily, it's my bro. He's been a really good guy that I've worked with a lot in entertainment. His name is Z Nijiroku. Nijiroku. You can actually follow him on Twitter. That's his actual handle. Z Nijiroku.
All right, you're gonna have to probably need to spell that out or send us the link later, and we'll put it in the chat for people to go turn him viral, and he'll be like, "What did you do? What did you?"
Definitely. The man is world class. He's a really good cinematographer. He's also a really good rapper and a lyricist, which is really amazing. Kind of like gives you like MF Doom slash, like Tyler the Creator, or like who's the other guy? I forget the other guy's name now. Like, he gives you those vibes, and it's like, I love what he does. But he's kind of a guy who really mentored me and helped me a lot through my career in Japan, where he's like, "Hey man, he was the one who actually got me on Twitter in the first place. If it wasn't for him, I would never actually have been on Twitter. I would have only been a Facebook guy." So he was the one like, "Dude, you need an Instagram, you need a Twitter." And this is like when I was still in Singapore. So I'm like, "Oh man, I'm at my worst right now, bro. I don't care about social media." And he's like, "Dude, make them now and you won't regret it." And then I like make one, and he's like, "Your name is weird, change your name." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." And I'm doing all this stuff, and it's like, I don't regret it. I look back on it, I was like, man, that man has some great advice for me as far as entertainment goes, because now I have avenues to reach other people. So it's like, dude, Z, if you're watching this, you my guy, man. I love you. Do your thing. But that's kind of how things go. It's like, you guys put me out there, so now it's kind of like, oh man, pressure. People know me, because of course they know Tom. Tom is like legendary when it comes like being in the Tokyo community, or at least in my eyes he is. And I've known Tom for years. I mean, I've known Tom for the greater part of a decade now. We've done things together, we've hung out together a lot, and this and the other. But to actually be working with him on set, it's kind of like I have someone familiar on set with me, which is really cool because now I'm more comfortable in my role, as opposed to somebody I didn't know and I got to get to know on set while we're going through this. So, it's like one of those things where it's like having someone familiar with you actually helps.
Oh,
Tom?
Sorry. What were you saying? No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I was like, Tom, you.
No. Our friend Gunzy in the chat is asking about either your sweatshirt or your jacket. Like, is there a way to buy that, or is it just company owned, I believe?
The shirt or the jacket?
One or the other. I don't know. I think he's wondering if that's just like able to be purchased. I think it's the sweatshirt, the shirt you're wearing, the turtleneck, I think.
The
maybe.
Shirt. Oh, well, this is a totally different shirt. This is like a kind of a mesh Gore-Tex kind of material. So, like if you, per se, work out or you dance and stuff and you get all sweaty, this thing will dry itself out. So it's actually really good material. And yes, if you are definitely interested in getting our shirts, we can totally do that. And we can do shipping. You can get it in any color. I got like plenty of color. I got like lavender, I got red, I got blue, I got green, I got gray. I got like different colors. So, we do colors and things. So, just contact me later and find out. I'll definitely get back to you on that.
Yeah, Gunzio, hit him up. You know how to hit him up. It's all our fault. Mostly our fault. Okay, it was my fault. It was really my fault. It was my fault. Hey.
I blame you for everything.
All right. Toba, can you ask the funny joke or joke question that Mucha asked way earlier during our first intermission when we were wrapping that part up?
Okay, so Mucha is basically a Jets fan. He's saying, since you're a Bears fan, do you do you also feel the pain of failure that empowers you? Bears. And
Hey,
yes,
man.
I did say I'm from Green Bay, but I'm not really a football person. So
Yeah, no, I had to have Toba ask that one just because I just saw that one in the comments. Like she left me, and I was like, I know you're gonna love Mooch's shit post.
Oh man, hey, Mucha, you a dick for that, but that's kind of awesome. Like,
Yeah.
you know what though? It's kind of like asking, hey man, how's Mike White? Does he like origami? Like, hey, like, but no, it is what it is, man. It's the Bears are going through a rebuild. It is what it is. Finally, we got some competence. We got some competency in the head office, and we got a franchise quarterback. So I'm happy about that. Justin Fields is the man. He just broke 1,000 yards in your face. It's not the same could be said for Zach Wilson or Mike White.
yeah,
But what were you gonna
few
say,
hours
Toma?
ago, actually. So
Hmm?
I mean,
I don't know.
well, no, I'm sorry, they lost against the Philadelphia Eagles like a few hours.
Yeah,
ago.
but we only lost by 5 points.
Yeah, by
Literally
five.
a touchdown.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's true.
Like
But-
every game we've literally lost except for the Cowboys game or the Cowboys and the Jets game. Literally, I mean, you can even count the Jets game if you want to. We only lost by like one score within 1 to 6 points. So I'm just saying we're not as terrible as we may seem. We just don't got no talent. We don't have talent. It is what it is. We didn't have no money. Ryan Pace kind of screwed us, so it is what it is. But hey, we coming for you next year. I hope we play the Jets so we can clap them, and then I can talk shit to you. We coming for them cheeks, boy.
yeah, no, our friend Mooch is such a shit poster. There's times where our own podcast back in the day, I'd have to either censor some of his jokes or cut them out and put them at the very end of episodes. So if you want to hear like some really effed up jokes, you gotta like just wait till the outro because we would just put them as Easter egg stingers. Yeah, because there were some jokes that Mooch would say where I'm like, I really love this joke, but I don't know how it will do if it's in the opening segments of our episode.
Like we're gonna get demonetized. Like we're not gonna put.
Yes, like some of them are so bad that like I'd like to say them right now for you to hear, just have your reaction, but I know it'll get us in trouble.
Sounds like me being in the Navy all over again.
Exactly.
Or just being in the Navy, period. Because that's pretty much all we do in the military. We make terrible jokes. We say the most terrible things, and it's just like, you know what? That's just a bad time for us. Yeah, with alcohol, it gets worse.
The story you told me the other day about winning gold medals is probably a great one. That one is that one's a peak. For those who don't know, you should ask him privately because we can't talk about that one on Twitch. Like this is one of those good.
To get so many more DMs now because of you.
This joke is so good that he needs to be a stand-up comedian. That's how good this one was. The story was like, Mike should just be a stand-up comedian because like the stuff I got to hear after Sound Out went to bed, his little virgin ears wouldn't be able to handle it.
I mean, it's kind of on it's on my to-do list because I found out there is actually like a stand-up. There's like an open mic stand-up community here, and I'm like, oh, I am totally getting into that. Like, because I'm going to be unapologetically me. I'm going to be like that kind of, old school Dave Chappelle. I'm just going to say what I do. Say what I say. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, comedy is subjective, so it is what it is. Like,
all right. Any last questions before we
Wheels
get
over here worried
into
about my virgin ears, forgetting I worked in Hollywood.
Sound Out? No, I always make it Sound Out. I always make the joke that you have virgin ears, even though they aren't. It's the joke. It's the joke because you're still technically the baby of the group, even though Ryan usurped your role as the baby of the group.
Half the reason why I hired him was because he was younger than me.
Yes, exactly. The only reason you hired him was because he was younger than you. That's the real answer.
Way more talented than me, so
Yes,
does that count as representation? Like,
which part?
Like, because he's younger, so he got hired. So would that be like a diversity hire because he's younger? Like,
you know what? We should use that as an excuse next time when someone asks. It's
do it.
Now I'm thinking about it too deeply.
Now they'll say to us, "You hired him because he was Asian." No, we hired him because he was young.
Right, he was a baby. We totally needed babies on the crew.
He was talented and he was younger than me.
Exactly. And products like Sound Out is your son, Wheels. Of course you need to protect him.
Hey man, sounds like wins to me. Like,
Yeah, that's one of the age-old lores. That's one of the age-old lores. Is that Sound Out is my son?
oh
Okay.
my goodness.
Okay, last question for now. For now. This is not the last question in general, people. Don't worry. We still got more. One question from Gunzy is, who would you love to work with in your field musically or acting-wise?
There's a few.
Let's just make it
Patrick
harder.
Stewart.
One.
Oh my God! Why would you do that?
I'll let
That
you
makes
do.
it like 100 times harder.
You can do 5 of each.
Yeah, 5 of each. 5 of each. So you've got Patrick Stewart.
Okay, so acting wise, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and oh my God, why did I just blank on that? Christopher Lee, because I love those three, and I'm a big fan of like a lot of the work they've done, theater and like acting wise. Rowan Atkinson, because I'm a big Rowan Atkinson fan, especially like what he did in like Blackadder and as Mr. Bean and how he recreated that entire genre just on that alone in slapstick.
Mhm.
And you know what? I gotta say it. James Earl Jones. I'm a
All
big
right.
James Earl Jones fan.
You got your
So
5.
that's on the acting side. That's my
You
acting
got your
side.
5 and one of them's dead.
Yes. Unfortunately.
Yes.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
Time machines. Hey.
Still
Exactly.
working on them.
I feel like they exist. I think they exist. They're just
There
not
was
telling
somebody
us.
that tweeted like the results, like what was the final results of like the MVP and like the winning team for the World Cup 7 years ago, and I'm like, did you really predict
Back
that?
to the Future. Like, Back to the Future? Really? Like,
Yeah.
fucking
All right.
Biff. Like,
Do you have 5 for musical or none?
yes, I do. Musical. Michael Jackson, James Brown, of course. Oh man, this is nuts. Seal, because I'm actually a very big Seal fan. Most people don't know that. I love Seal. Alma LaRoe. Most people don't know who she is, but I love her. And the last one, that's kind of the Gorillas.
All right. Feel good.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go back to our actual scheduled questions. Let me scroll up so I can see where the hell we're at. All right. I'll ask this one first. Some of your earliest credits include smaller independent tokusatsu films. Is there a proper classification for indie tokusatsu in Japan? Because the reason I ask this, because in the West, we usually just classify anything that's not like a major actual studio, usually as indie or a local production. So what is the correct terminology, and would you like to just talk about some of those smaller productions you've been on?
So, I guess understanding what tokusatsu is technically Japanese for special effects.
Yeah.
So I guess what you would call like sci-fi or anything just with any type of an effect would be tokusatsu. So mostly, I guess what in the West, excuse me, we refer to as tokusatsu. Here they would just call hero. They would call it the hero genre, which is really interesting if you get to know it. Like, especially like if you like go to karaoke and you like, oh, I want to do like a Super Sentai or Kamen Rider song or something. If you actually go into the thing and look up hero, you will find like every song from like every toku ever made. Because that's just kind of how they do it. So they classify it here as hero. Toku just means special effects. So sci-fi, action, anything would technically count as toku. So here it's still considered like independent, like indie toku, right? You know what I mean? Like it's still an indie thing. So they still refer to it as such. And so what was the other part of the question?
The question was just like, what is the actual terminology for your indie tokusatsu? Is it just called indie hero, local hero? Because that's the difference here for the Western side is tokusatsu is just usually the Japanese special effects shows. That's because it's always attributed to that in media,
Like
at least when brought over.
Anime to cover Japanese animation.
Yeah.
Right. And so another thing is like there are multi levels of heroes. So like in Japan, you have like your big time, okay, Toei, Subaraya, they have their heroes, their big time heroes, right? But then you have like every prefecture or like every state has like their own hero for like that state. But then there's like every city and every town has their local heroes as well. So there are literally heroes for everything in Japan. Like even companies have their own heroes sometimes. it's kind of a like. At first, to me, it was kind of weird, but now I'm actually like, I'm actually more impressed because I'm like, wow, they actually have their own heroes. It's kind of cool. Like, you know, I mean, like, kind of like if you remember Tiger Bunny, how like they were like
Yep.
SoftBank and this and what was the other company? I can't remember
They
the
were
other
pretty
company.
much local heroes meet NASCAR.
Right. But here's the funny thing about it. SoftBank is a cellular company here.
Yep.
That is actually one of the big three of the cell phone companies. You know, that's like the T-Mobile or the Verizon Wireless of like Japan. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? So you would think like, you're like, oh, so they have their own heroes. Like, dope. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I see you over there laughing.
No, I saw comments from Project that I'm just like, I can't wait till we get to the next intermission.
Are they still doing each prefecture has their own local hero?
Yes, so they still do that, and then they have like cities. They have their own heroes for each city, but then they have their own heroes for like each, you know, like town, each like area has their own heroes sometimes, and some of them don't, some of them do. So it just kind of depends on where you go. Like if it's like a middle of nowhere, there's nothing there, they probably don't have a hero. They probably do, or they have a mascot. At least if they don't have a hero, they do have a mascot. So there's kind of that.
All right. And I guess just for some of the smaller tokusatsu you've been a part of, just vaguely, I guess, talk about some of those, because I know we plan to talk more in depth about them later, but just
Looking forward to it.
I'm expecting the entire internet to explode when that one happens.
Okay, so the small ones that I've been a part of, really, I've only been a part of two, Mitsurugi and Gaion. So that was kind of it, really. And they were from like the same area, so it's kind of like that's all Chiba. So like if you go to Chiba, that's like Mitsurugi's area, and Gaion is his sub hero. You know, that kind of like, you know, you got like Kamen Rider Wizard and Kamen Rider Beast. So like Beast, like Gaion would be the equivalent of Beast. So it's kind of, they're both on the same show, but then there's like the main hero, sub heroes. So for like that area, it was those two, and that was kind of interesting to work with. Got to learn a lot more about how Toku works, so like kind of on a bigger sect, and you know how, you know, bureaucracy and red tape and politics dictate a lot of things sometimes, and how they don't. So you know, it's kind of learning those kind of things. Just made it more of an eye-opening experience for me.
All right. Sound out. You take 11.
All right. So, having worked on both types of productions, what differences have you noticed between the smaller budget tokusatsu versus the full-fledged franchises, without like getting into any, you know, details about like
Right.
the
Budgets or
the ins and outs,
sponsorships.
things you can talk about without
Yeah, because
going too deep into it. But
I know usually everyone says, oh, it's obviously the budgets and the sponsorships, but like, what's like the production side that you notice? Yeah.
Well, just working in, you know, like I guess film in general, one of the things I've learned that like when it comes to either side of productions, producers really do matter in that, because there's times when you're on set and the producers are sitting on set with the director, and they're just kind of watching the product that they're funding, and it's kind of like, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like that, or oh, why is this like this, and why is this like this? So then like sometimes the producers themselves can dictate the shoot and can change the outcome of like the product that they're making, which is really interesting. Like you know, and I guess that would happen in the States too. I've never really seen it happen per se, but I'm not like, if it did happen, I wouldn't be surprised. And you know, so when it comes to working with like big time as opposed to small time, there is way more organization on the big time side. Like you got, because you know, there's hundreds of people working for this one project, so there's like, okay, we got people for scheduling, we got people for this, we got people for that, we got, and there's people to do everything. It's literally that there's not one job that somebody's not doing. Like there is actually a person for that. So you know, sometimes when you're like watching the movie and you're going through the credits and you see like all the technical stuff that's going on, all the technical shtick. Yeah, that's kind of how it's like. It's really, there are people for everything. There's literally somebody that's almost like, I'm making a joke when I'm saying like, oh, you got to go to the bathroom, you need somebody to shake it off for you. There's probably somebody for that. You know what I mean? Like
it also
as a
depends
joke.
on
But,
how high up in the hierarchy you are before you get those people.
right, because I mean, I've done jobs where I'm just an extra, and it's kind of like, oh, you're here? Go sit in the corner. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares. You're like, as a talent, right? It's kind of like, go sit in the corner. Nobody really cares if you're here or not, if you exist or don't. Your time is my time, so just don't get in the way, kind of thing. But then there's like, oh, you're a sub main. Okay, you get a little more respect because you're a sub main. So you have a little more of an important part. So then they're just like, okay, hey, let's get you a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Hey, you hungry? You need a little something, something. Oh, we got some snacks for you. Here you go. Or you need something to drink. Here you go. But then when you're like a main or you're like the star, then it's like, hey, they're gonna roll out the red carpet for you. Hey, we're gonna take care of you. You're not gonna have to want for anything. You're not gonna have to do anything yourself. We'll do it for you. You know what I mean? Like you have people and assistants to help you. And like working on Kamen Rider, right? It's pretty cool because I've never been used to like people doing everything for me because I'm just used to doing it myself, even when I'm on set. Where like, oh, it's really really hot outside, it's sunny. Somebody is walking up with an umbrella and they're standing over me, holding an umbrella over me so that I don't, tan or get super hot or things like that. And I'm like, oh, I can do it. And they're like, no, 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 it's my job. I'll do it for you. And I'm like, I'm good. It's cool. Here, give me that. And at first it was really awkward, but then being like like I said, like having Tom on set, is kind of something that helps me because Tom's like, dude, just go with it and just say thank you. I'm like, okay, so it's kind of one of those things where like I'm unfamiliar with this side, so I don't know what's going on, but then it's like having someone who's been through it knows how it goes, so it's kind of like, hey, this, that, and the other, just do this, just do that, don't worry about it, this is their job, this is what they're paid to do. Every shoot, every cut, it's like, hey, makeup's coming up and they're dolling you up or they're fixing your costume and they're doing this, that, and the other. So it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, for the first time I ever had my own room that I could just kick back and relax in. It had its own Wi-Fi and had its own TV and stuff, and I'm like, my name's on the door. Like I got my name on the door. That's so cool. And I walk in, and I got like 3 couches, a freaking kitchen, and like I'm like, is this for? And I walk out the room because I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do about this. I go find Tom. And I'm Tom. What's up with this room? Am I supposed to be in there? And they're like, yes. And then it's like, there's food on the table. Am I supposed to eat that? And they're like, he's like, yes. And I'm like this is for me. Like this isn't like I gotta use this and I have to pay it later. And they're like, no, 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 no. Go in there and chill. And I'm like,
I don't know what. I don't know why, but that's like the greatest story ever. So I have to pay for this, right? Like it's a hotel.
I'm like, is this like hotel services? I gotta like pay for this? They're gonna bill me later? They're like, no, this is for you. And I'm like, I'm taking a picture of this. I am documenting this. This actually happened. Like
I don't know why, but I'm just like picturing you like dry humping the couch, like this is like out of like just pure like you're running around the room like those montages where you see a comedy like,
yeah.
Oh my god, it's like you're like running around trying out everything in the room and you're just like bouncing off the walls and like you finally lay down and relax and Tom's like, hey, we gotta go. It's time to film and you're like, oh damn it.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, but then I'm like once the euphoria wore off, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, switch.
I just imagine like the main cast actors like looking at you, going, "The hell's wrong with that guy?" He just discovered he has his own room.
Right, and it's like funny because like I'm not sharing a room with somebody because usually I'm used to like, okay, if we do have a room, there's like multiple of us in the room. Like, no, there's this one big ass room, but it's just me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this space. Nintendo Switch. It was just that thing. It was super
and you can
funny.
catch your Umbreons too.
Yep, and I can catch my Umbreons. Hey.
I already say Switch, so I'm like, gotta sneak that one in there. That Umbreon joke, man. That's a pivotal joke, man.
Hey,
also,
it's epic though, right?
Yes, it is epic. Sound where says your mic is coming in a little low. I don't know if that's just because of the audio editing stuff.
I turned it down because I was coming in way too hot.
Okay.
It was getting to the point like I cracked a knuckle and the thing was just like spiking and I was like,
okay, so
I'm just
like hopefully we're coming in good for the people listening. Like I hope
right,
we're not too
where's
crazy.
officially on mic check duty. Let me know if it's better. Because I probably overcorrected lowering it. It's probably back up now.
Because like, am I coming in all right? Like, am I Toma and Mike coming in? We're good.
I've been prioritizing the Skype call audio over mine because I'm closer to my microphone, and then I'm running you guys through an app. So I'm like I gotta adjust mine down because it's too loud.
Technical difficulties.
It's also
for the record, I actually want to learn this.
Every time I click on a screen, it like comes through the stream, and I get embarrassed. So
okay, but what were you saying though?
I was like, technically, I want to learn what he's doing. Like, this is part of like production I haven't learned yet, but I would actually be mad interested in learning this.
All right.
I'm fairly new to doing streaming. Like I started doing weekly streaming on my channel like a month ago, and I'm still getting used to it. It's like,
And I'm definitely going to be picking your brain, man. I'm going to like pop your head open and just be like, brain, because I need information.
It's
I've done a lot of trial and error. You know, the hard part's done. I can just tell you, like, oh yeah, you should go do this and this and this, and you can pull this up and do that.
I mean, I definitely want to stream, especially like gaming and stuff. Like, why not? And you know, other stuff. But yeah, hey, I want to pick your brain, so be ready for that. I'm gonna be blowing you up.
All right.
All right, Toma. Toma, actually do number 12 for us.
Okay. What do you think is a bigger problem for Tokusatsu in Japan? Bandai's direct involvement with the major shows, or TV and networks regulations? I don't know if you ran into anything like that, or if you're just on the show and you don't notice that kind of thing. But
I just thought to ask also because you're a fan too. So since you live in there, you might know.
Well, I mean, I'm a big attention to detail kind of guy, so I tend to focus a lot on just random stuff that I see, and I'm just like, oh. I think if I'm looking at it from like being like a customer, or like someone who's actually watching it but not involved in it, I say one of the biggest things that always irked me. I mean, if you watch my Garage Pro, reviews when we do movies and stuff, you kind of see where I go when I'm always like reviewing these movies. I'm like, I hate the CG. Like, the CG is straight up trash. Like, it's garbage. And I'm like, I'm a big fan of like practical effects, especially because, like with watching a lot of my favorite filmmakers and things of that nature, and a lot of the movies that I've watched, and I'm like kind of a movie buff, I'm a big movie buff. So I'm like, I lean more towards like practical effects than I do, digital effects. And I'll give you a prime example. If you remember, what is it? Superhero ties into the Grand Prix one when they did the whole race thing. I say, like, okay, I wasn't a big fan of that movie. The movie just had like some moments where I'm just like, oh my god, this movie sucks. But like, one of the scenes that like really killed me was like, I think it was with Shadow Moon, and he was like driving. He's riding his bike in the middle of the race, and like Rideron comes driving up beside him, and then it's like, oh, hey, you're Rideron, and then he like picks him up and he starts slamming him, and he throws him, and then it's like, okay, he's gone, and it's like, and then Rideron drives off, and I'm like, okay, that was random. But I was like, I hated that scene so much because Rideron was completely CG, and the CG looked like something from like Nintendo 64, like PlayStation 1 graphics. And I was like, bro, this is utter garbage. I was like, there was no reason you needed to CG that part. Like, you could have actually just used a car or made one or whatever case may be. Probably there was budget restrictions or this, that, and the other, I guess. Like there's probably something going on the technical side. But I'm just like, I hated this scene so much because that just looks so bad. You know what I mean? And it's things like that that like bother me as like a fan who watches it, but then I'm also a fan who makes toku. So then I'm definitely like, this was horrible. So I see things like that where I'm like, okay, this, that, and the other. Maybe another thing that I'm kind of leaning towards, but I don't think it's really a problem. I just think it's kind of how you handle it is maybe more representation, when it comes to, like being a toku. Because, like if I look at toku back in the day, it kind of has like the same thing now where it's kind of followed the same trajectory. Like, I guess the only other thing that's different is like the stars are getting younger as opposed to them being older, and like you see like it's older now, they just get more younger. And it kind of goes with like, I think the golden age of cinema in Japan, back from like the 50s up to like the mid 70s, early 80s, where there's like golden age. And then after that it was kind of like we got to flip the script. Okay, let's start using more younger people because they look good. It's kind of the equivalent of like switching from Roger Moore and James Bond to switching to that one model from, what was it? What was the name of that movie? I forget the name of the movie, but you remember they used like this model, and he was like terrible because he was not an actor.
Oh, it's the one that wasn't Timothy Dalton, right?
Yeah.
George Lazenby's Bond film.
Can't remember the name of the
On
film,
His
but I
Majesty's
remember
Secret Service.
Yes,
that's
that one. And you're just like, oh, this is bad. Because I was like, I didn't like Roger Moore, but I was like, he's better than this guy. Like, you know,
it's funny because they did Sean Connery, they switched to George Lazenby, and then they snapped back to Connery before
yeah, because they were
Roger
just like,
Moore.
yeah, this didn't work. They're like, yeah, this isn't working. Yeah, we're not doing this again. You know, it was one of those feelings where it's just like, why are we trying to go with using more attractive people as opposed to using people who are talented? You know what I mean?
And this is
Granted, I'm not saying
that's the thing that's hit the global like film space that I've noticed. Is just like everybody that they put into movies and shows are like the most attractive people, and you get less of like the just normal looking people, which is also like there's a whole discussion about body image and self image in that as well.
right. And, you know, I'm kind of one of those guys where it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a big Star Trek fan. If you didn't know, I love Star Trek. I mean, I grew up watching TOS, TNG, because I mean, I was alive when TNG came out, you know what I mean? So, like, I started watching TNG from the beginning. So I'm like, TNG, DS9, you know, hated Voyager. Voyager was trash. I don't care what anybody says. First season was okay, but then after that, it just fell off for me. And then after that, it was just kind of bad. Enterprise was interesting, though. I liked Enterprise. But for me, right? Like as a guy who's watching Star Trek, I'm a black kid. I know nothing about any of these people. So it's like, okay, like what's the black guy we got on TOS? We don't. We only had, you know, Uhura, and she was hot. She was a fox, still is a fox. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay. But then we went to like TNG. We had like Geordi. We had, you know, Worf. And I'm like, these guys are epic. You know, I love these guys because, you know, I was a big Michael Dorn fan and I love LeVar Burton because, you know, reading Rainbow, you know, that's again showing
he
my
taught
age.
us to read.
Exactly. And it was awesome. It was like, yo, reading is fun. You know, and everybody remembers the iconic theme song and whatnot. But, you know, it was like growing up with these guys, I had these guys to look up to. So when DS9 came out and the main star of the show is Benjamin Sisko, you know, that to me was like a very big thing because it was like you just took a black actor who was a really good singer, by the way, because he actually was a legit singer and you put him as the main character of this show, but then you have him tackle things that are like real life issues. Because you know the difference between like TNG, where it was more fantasy, like okay, we're going to go and meet gods and do all these random crazy adventures. But then when you got to Deep Space Nine, you're talking about some real type stuff, real world stuff going on. Because you got a man who's a single father because he lost his wife in an attack. So he has to learn how to balance being a single father and being the leader of a space station. And people don't respect him because he's like, oh, well, you're the new guy. We don't care if you're our captain or not. You know what I'm saying? Like he's going through all these things, but then you're tackling religion and you're tackling like duty and sense of honor. And you're tackling all these main real life issues that people deal with. And you did it with a black captain. I was like, bro, from here on out, Deep Space Nine will always be my favorite show because of just all the issues that it tackled and the way that it tackled these things. But then you had a guy that like for me, it was a guy I could look up to and say, I want to be that guy. Also, he was the first person to punch Q in the face. So that automatically is a win in my book. So take that, Q. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. Like, I love that show so much because it was just so many things happening in that show on so many levels. So
don't forget, he was magical too.
Exactly. He like took Q and he's like, I'm not Picard. Bam! I'm like, yes! I'm like a kid. I'm like, yes, do it again.
It is one of the greatest moments of the whole show, and it's like it's usually first season episodes of Star Trek aren't that great, and then there's just like DS9 where it's like, yeah, we're gonna start with a great pilot, and we're gonna have Sisko punch Q.
Yep. Deep Space Nine was just such a good show. I don't care what anybody says. People are like, oh, Deep Space Nine wasn't that great. I'm like, yo, kill yourself, because that show was amazing. Like, for so many reasons. Whether you agree or not, that was a good show for a lot of reasons. Because it did what Star Trek never did before. It was literally like, we're going to go into new avenues, and we're going to try some new stuff that might or might not actually hit.
And this Star Trek podcast was brought to you by Mike Hinder.
And it's going to keep going. Because what's really fun about DS9 is that because of
great. Now he's going to promote his toys.
I wasn't even going to promote toys. I'm going to talk about the Dominion War. Jeez. Don't just assume.
Oh, the Dominion War was so good.
Don't just assume because I made a 4.5-hour retrospective of the entire Playmates Toys Star Trek toy line, that I'm going to promote it and say that there is a compilation version coming Wednesday, if you haven't seen any of it so far, that you can find on a YouTube channel called Sound Out 12. And if you're impatient, you can go watch all 6 parts right now. I wasn't going to say any of that. I was just going to say how, like, the Dominion War...
plug.
Exactly. That's what I was doing. I was like, even if he wasn't planning it, I'm making him plug it now. Might as freaking well.
I was going to at the end.
Regret nothing.
I was just going to talk about the Dominion War being a great arc of television and led to the serialization of TV as we know it. Because it was one of the first ones to do these overarching
I'm pretty
stories.
sure there's so many viewers right now going, get to the goddamn Geats. And we're like, we're getting there. You just got to deal with this.
We have to visit DS9 first. It's important.
We got to nerd out, okay? Don't forget, we're all nerds. We love Toku. We're nerds. And that is totally cool. We're totally nerds. We're totally geeks. We love, like, superheroes. We love Toku. We love nerdy stuff. And that's just kind of what this thing is. And that's why I enjoy it so much, because I get to be a part of that. And I'm like, hey, get with it, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly. Star Trek is Tokusatsu. We haven't gone off topic. There's so much.
Technically, yeah, you're correct.
There's so many special effects in Star Trek accounts.
Yep.
And you know what's funny too is a lot of the earlier comments we got was like, even though you guys are like just going in order too, and then adding in our comments, a lot of people are actually enjoying this dialogue, that we have this open dialogue, because like everyone's like, yeah, DS9 is tight, shilling, stuff like that in the chat. So.
Yes. Flood the comments, guys. Like, blow them up, make their servers crash. Pretty much, that's how it should be. You guys have. I mean, hey, I'll help you get a new server if that happens. But, hey, blow them up, because this is the kind of stuff we live for as, Toku fans. It's not just Kamen Rider. It's not just Super Sentai. It's not just Power Rangers. It's not just Ultraman. It's everything, like, this is what we live for. This is the stuff that made us, us.
Absolutely.
Did it get too dark now? Because this light was bothering me for a while, because I had 2 lights on.
You actually look brighter now.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah,
Just
where were we at?
Friendly ghost. I'm sorry. It was there. I'm sorry.
You did get ghosted out a little bit. My lights are behind me. That's why I'm constantly in shadow.
Like, my light is over there, and I was like half tipped, and I kept looking at it like, should I just like angle that down at me so I can look a little brighter? Like,
I think if I back up, I could probably. There's the light. Still
Wonder Bread.
There it is.
Hey, if you look up into the light again, I'm going to call you Pepper. Just throwing that out there.
There's comments about like a Twilight being a vampire.
Toma, we're not dealing with Project bull crap right now. We'll get to that later.
It's okay. Being a sparkly vampire is the path to Batman, so you're doing good.
Hey, for the record, that was the best Batman ever. Besides Batman Forever, that is like my all-time favorite Batman now.
I literally don't want like any other Batman besides the Batman now.
Right? It was so good. I was like, I actually like this.
I was like, oh my god.
Not counting, what is it, Zoe Kravitz. I was like, take her out of the movie. She's annoying to me.
I love that it was an actual like murder mystery film. Like, it was an actual detective movie.
For one, somebody actually got Batman right. Like, he's a detective. He comes in, he solves murders and crimes and stuff like that. Occasionally, he beats the crap out of somebody. Cool. But, like, this Batman who's taking on these superpower villains, I'm like, bro, get that out of here, because it's trash. That's not Batman. It's never going to be Batman. And I don't care what anybody says. And if you dick ride Batman, I'm not going to, like, ride with you on that. But I will say that the Batman movie is probably one of the best Batman movies ever done, and it's one of the best portrayals of Batman, because it kind of reminds you of like noir Batman as well. What I think is really good. I'm a big comic nerd, by the way. Hi.
I'm a huge. I have all these Marvel figures behind me. I think that should be like I'm a huge.
Found out.
I'm
we already shilled some toys. We already shilled some toys. We can't shill any more right now.
I mean, I got so many videos. We were talking about vampires, and I forgot to mention I was a vampire in October for the Sound Out's Month of Monsters. That was a commercial flop, but boy, it was like one of the best things ever made.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to check that out, because that sounds hilarious.
Yes, you will need to see his entire YouTube channel.
I will like go on and like roast it and probably stitch it and start like roasting the crap out of you. No offense, but I love you. It's all out of love.
It gets attention because honestly, like I did 31 days of monster videos in October, and they all flopped.
Ooh, 31 days of
This is what
monsters.
you need
Please
to
tell me
do.
you got some good ones on there.
I kept it classic this year. You know, I kept it. I had it themed. There was a vampire week, had a Frankenstein week, did a week of mummies that also mixed in with Invisible Man and Phantom of the Opera. That one was a bit of a
Please-
stretch. Whole week of
Please tell me you
werewolves.
had some. Please tell me you had some like Christopher Lee and Vincent Price mixed in that. Please tell me you did.
I had a lot of references to them, but they don't have a lot of toys. It's
That is true.
really complicated. There's a Vincent Price action figure that's gonna hit my pile of loot in like a week, and I'm excited.
But sound
They have
out,
a Vincent Price action figure. I want that.
Yeah, it's literally just him. It's like not him as a character. It's just a Vincent Price master of horror.
That's what you want. That's Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on. Everybody remembers Vincent Price, the voice of Thriller. Like, come on. Like, that legend. That guy is legend. And I hope you're not lactose intolerant. Dairy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that is the guy.
Honestly, like I love classic horror so much, and I was like, I'm gonna do a tribute to it, and then YouTube's like, this doesn't fit your normal content algorithms. This is weird. We're not gonna recommend it to people, and I'm like,
YouTube, you dicks.
But sound out. You forgot the biggest monsters of them all: Haim Saban, Shuki Levy, and Chip Lynn.
Yes, the people that worked at the Saban Productions crews, producers specifically.
Yes, but what you should do, Mike, is you should watch all of his videos, but wait till you get your streaming set up and you actually like live react to watching Sound Out. So while you're roasting him, you get to actually make content off of him.
You're gonna hate me, Sound Out, if I do that.
I would love it because I would love the attention.
It would be the greatest cross branding and marketing.
Yes,
because you could start all the way at the very beginning when he was still like freaking 13 or whatever with a bumblebee mask on, and he had like this really high voice going, "Hey, this is Sound Out 12."
I wasn't even in high school when I started.
And then you can work your way up to like the years as they go on till he gets his third testicle.
Yeah.
Jeez, my earliest YouTube video, I was like 20 at least.
I was 13 starting out, and I'm 27 now, so I've been doing this like long time.
Man, y'all make me feel old now. Jesus.
Well, here's the thing. From what you told me how old you are, we're pretty close though in age. We're like only like a 5-year difference, at least 6 maybe.
I'm still the
young one. That's 5 years though. Like, think about how long that is.
But Toma is actually the oldest one here.
Yes.
Is she?
Yes.
No way. No, you're not.
Yes.
No,
yes, she is. She is.
Yes, I am.
Toma's the oldest. I don't know if yes, Toma's past the 40.
Yes.
What? I don't feel so bad now.
and now her roommate's away because I hear her roommate in the background reacting. I hear Alias.
I'm only 2 years younger than she is, so we are.
Oh!
Yeah. Let's just say mid-40s.
Yeah, they have voices of teenagers and young adults.
Yes.
I mean, y'all sound younger than me. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
And now the chat's talking about how young they were when they post. Okay, so we tangented on DS9, comics, age.
Don't tangent on to me comics again because we will never get off comics.
Fine. Okay.
We will not. We will
sound
not.
out. We will not talk about the time you made Linkara cry. Okay, we will not.
Cry.
All right.
Well,
anyway,
I now want to hear this story.
We can tell you after the show.
Yeah.
I am all for this.
I can tell it right now. I want everyone to know this story.
Okay, fine. Tell the story of Linkara while we were at Power Morphicon 2018.
2018, met Linkara at Power Morphicon, was talking to him about like stuff. I ended up talking to him about DC stuff because there was this event going on called Heroes in Crisis, which was just the absolute worst for me. And I know that Linkara was also like a big Wally West Flash fan. I'm like, oh, this is going to upset him greatly. And he's like, I haven't read it yet because I'm pretty much sure that someone's going to Patreon request me to review it. And I'll just review it then. He's like, but how bad is it? You got to tell me now. And I was like, oh, okay, well, Wally West killed like 30 people in a a safety home that was supposed to help their mental health, and he put his hands in his face and just started screaming and crying.
Dude, that is messed up. You straight nuked that guy. It was like,
and when he
Mushroom
did his
cloud.
review, he was like, "I've been dreading this for years, but I knew it had to happen."
Oh my god, that is messed up but hilarious. I am
Yeah.
Linkara. My thoughts go with you, man. But I'm sorry, that is actually pretty funny.
Yep.
You gotta take that one on the chin, man. Like just.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
Where's losing his mind right now in the chat found out because he realized GLE's at the stream, projects in the stream, and doesn't know that Metal's also watching the stream. So like pretty much all of the main Hero Club Toku Anime News guys are on this stream right now watching.
Hi guys, contact me anytime. Contact these guys too, because these guys are awesome. They're actually pretty hilarious. You guys should like come together and do like a multi-stream where you guys are all on together talking about different things. I think it would create a lot of views and a lot of content for you all.
We actually had to like narrow down who was going to be on here, or we would never be done, or we'd be in a 3-ring circus, because we were like, there's a lot of people who would like to meet Mike, but we can't have them all in the call together because we'd never be able to.
I mean, we're tangenting enough as is with just us.
Yeah. All right. Before we go back to our original planned questions, since Project heard you say you like wrestling, he wants to know, do you still watch wrestling? Do you watch Stardom? And do you know about, in quotations, our Lord and Savior Tam Nakano? Or do you love Julia?
Okay, I'm not familiar with like Stardom at all, so I don't mess with any of that. As far as wrestling goes, I grew up with it. I mean, I come from the 80s of WWF. I'm talking about like Ultimate Warrior, Sting when he was still with the WWF, The Rockers, like I come from that era. So, I come from that and WCW and ECW when it finally came out. Like I grew up through all of that. And then, once they started, bringing in John Cena and giving him first-person shooters and hand jobbing him all the time, I kind of walked away from wrestling. Also, at that time, I was still wrestling at the time, and I kind of walked away from it after getting injured. But I had one of the best trainers ever, because my trainer who was teaching me was the tag team partner of AJ Styles, which was Chris Hart. So if you remember him, he was the guy who was bringing me into the wrestling game and teaching me what I needed to know. I'm a big fan of, Kane, original Kane, and mid-new Kane, like Kane and X-Pac Kane. I like him too. D-Max Kane is kind of like, But I was a big Hardy's fan as well. I'm a big Jeff Hardy fan, and that's kind of what I modeled my wrestling career after, is being a high flyer. So I used to do all the crazy dives and stuff. And funny story.
I'm gonna send you my photo of when I met them.
Oh, I hate you so much right now. One of the funniest stories is kind of an epic story, cool story. I used to do a lot of like hardcore backroom brawl wrestling matches. And one of the ones I did ended up happening in a movie theater.
Okay.
And long story short, this match ended with me hitting a swanton off the armrest of a theater of like the chairs, was hitting a swanton bomb off the actual armrest of that and like landing it, which was like one of the coolest things ever. And that's like 3 feet off the ground. So, you're like right there. So you mess this up, that is literally you spiking your head into the floor. So, like that was kind of one of those like cool things I got to do. That was like, okay, highlight of my life. Never gonna never gonna forget this. And also putting a lot of people in the walls of Jericho. I did that a lot. Go figure. I don't know why, but it was just like, hey, Michael, you need a submission. What's your submission gonna be? Crippler crossface, Scorpion Deathlock, Walls of Jericho. And they're like, seriously? And I'm like, yes, this is happening. And then eventually I got into the Anaconda Vice, which was actually really funny too.
All I know is whenever I see someone do the Walls of Jericho, if it's locked in like a line tamer, I'm like, that's some good shit.
Yeah, but I did the one because I'm like, you got to remember, I'm like 6'2", so I did the one where your head and your shoulder were touching the floor, and then I would twist you, so you couldn't get out of it, and it was going to hurt. Like, I did the
Lion
actual one,
Tamer's
not the
good.
one where I bend you backwards. No, I'm doing the one where you're straight up, your head and your shoulders are touching the
Yeah,
floor, and then
Lion
you turn
Tamer.
it to the
Yeah.
side, like the original Lion
Yes.
Tamer, like the original, like New Japan Pro Wrestling WCW one, and then like early WWF, like that one. Like I do that one. It is super funny because people are just like, I don't want to ever be in this again, you know? And they're just
Exactly.
like, please don't do that. They're like, if you like decide to put me in a submission, can you put me in a figure four in the Scorpion Deathlock? Like, you want my Scorpion Deathlock? And they're just like, you know what? On second hand, I'll take that figure four. No thanks. I'm like, oh, like I shouldn't have asked.
All right. What are we on to now? So we're gonna go back to our regular
Yeah, we should
questions.
go. Yeah, let's go back to the regular list of questions.
All right. So this is gonna surprise our audience, but Michael was not intended to be Ben originally. So can you please tell us how you ended up becoming Ben and who originally was going to be Ben in Kamen Rider Geats?
Okay, how I became Ben. Luck of the draw, literally. Just happened to be next guy up. That is how that happened. Long story short. What actually ended up happening is, like I said before earlier in the show, that there's three, black, stunt guys, action guys, actors that kind of do this thing, that do toku. So there's this guy named Alex, and then there's Chuck Johnson. Alex is your black guy who's like really buff, really jacked, kind of Bobby Lashley style. You know what I mean? Like he's jacked.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Chuck Johnson, and Chuck Johnson is kind of like the legend when it comes to this because this dude was like in Forza and this, that, and the other. So he's been in Toku for a while, and he does a lot of this kind of stuff, and he does a lot of action and this, that, and the other. He has his own club now. He has his own stunt club now and his own fight club. So he's been doing this a while. So pretty much usually again in Japan when it comes to casting for different things, they go with what they know. So they know Alex, they know Chuck. They're going to pick them automatically because these are like, hey, we know those guys, we're going to do this. So originally Ben was supposed to be Chuck Johnson. Like he was supposed to be the one that was supposed to do this job. It was not supposed to be me. So being that Chuck was supposed to be Ben, it ended up not happening because of scheduling conflicts. And then I think they went to Alex, but Alex is also recuperated from an injury that he sustained before, so he's not available either. So then what ends up happening is like my agent comes and contacts me and says, "Hey, we got this like this movie coming up. We want you to audition for it. Do you want to audition?" I'm kind of like, yeah. So it's like, okay, when do I have to go to the audition? And he's like, oh, there's no audition. They're gonna do like photo selection. So if you have like video or if you have pictures and whatnot, then we're gonna go with that. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. So I'm gonna send them the stuff. So can you send me, can you send it to me? And I'm like, sure. And so I kind of go off and say, okay, hey man, here's a bunch of pictures of me. Here's a bunch of videos of me doing action with AAC because I had like a lot of AAC videos. Like one of the ones I posted on my Twitter, I like sent him a lot of those videos. Eventually, I'm going to start posting them on Twitter when I learn how to be able to post multi videos. But so I sent him those videos, and I mean, I spammed him with videos. I sent him probably about 15, 20 videos. Or like, dude, you're going to have to take all these, take all these, take all these. And then not even like a day later, half a day later, he comes back. He's like, okay, you got the job, so you're going to do this job. So then he comes back and is like in a by the way kind of fashion, like, oh, did I mention this is for Kamen Rider? And I'm like, really? Like Kamen Rider? Like I'm getting cast to be a Kamen Rider? So I'm thinking I'm going to be an extra. I'm just going to be a passerby or something. I am not expecting what's coming up. So then I'm like, so then the first thing that pops in my head is like, is this for the movies? Because they always do the movie. So I'm like, is this for the movie or is this for the show? And so my agent's like, oh, this is totally for the movies. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm just gonna get like a one and done part. Okay, like, hey, dude, I could be a Kamen Rider. This is awesome. I am totally all for this. So then I get to set, because they say, "Oh, this is for Shin Kamen Rider." He didn't tell me it was for Geats. He said this was for Shin Kamen Rider. So I'm thinking I'm going to be in Shin Kamen Rider's movie.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, I get to be in Shin Kamen Rider? Oh, I know this. I was looking forward to this. Oh, I am totally all there. I'm there. Then get to set. We shoot the first episode. Do a little action. This and the other. You know, when the Jamoji attack. You know, they start like killing everybody in the first episode. So that was my first shooting with like Geats. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I get to do this. I get to do some action, blah, 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 blah. So I'm all like happy, like, yo, I got to be in the movie, da, 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 da. And then like at the end of it, they're like, hey, so we're going to contact you and your agent about the next shooting. So please, you know, give us your schedule and let us know. And I'm like, next shooting? I'm like, this is a movie. So like you tell me I have multiple seasons of a movie? And then somebody comes up to me and they give me like this thing and it's Kamen Rider Geats. And I'm like, Geats? I'm like, what is Geats? You know, so like I have no idea what's going on. So I'm all like, what the f is Geats? What is this? And then like, oh, this is for the show, Kamen Rider Geats. You're in the show. And I'm like, you know, like I'm like breathless, freaking out. I'm in the show, and they're like, yeah, like you're in the show. You're Ben. You know, you're gonna be Ben and this, that, and the other. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, oh, this is so crazy, and then it just kind of took off from there. It was just like, okay, dude, now you're in the show. You're a reoccurring character. This is happening because it was kind of going to be a one-off character, you know, kind of thing. But then they kind of flipped it and was like, oh, people actually kind of like you guys. We're gonna start incorporating you more into the show, and I'm like. No way. This is actually a thing. I'm in a show. Then I'm like telling everybody, I'm in Kamen Rider Geats. This is a show. This is not the movie. This is a shit Kamen Rider. Oh my god. I'm like freaking out. And there's like people are just like, really? Oh, okay. And like most people are just like, oh, okay. That's not bad. Like, I'm like, and everybody's like, okay, we'll see where that goes. Okay, you know, do your thing, blah, blah, blah. Now it's kind of gotten blown out of proportions, and it's like, oh my god, this is actually happening. So now I'm all like, and everyone's like, oh my god, you're doing this, and I'm just like, yeah, yes, I am, indubitably, you know. So
you're like, it's shallow and pedantic. You nerds, I no longer need you.
like when I was freaking out, you peasants didn't even notice me. Now you're freaking out. Who's the peasant now? Like, you know.
I think my favorite thing. My favorite thing, it's towards later when we get to the comment of the scans were leaked that there might be like these two drone Kamen Riders. Everyone's like, it's probably John and Ben. And I was like, hey, I know you can't say anything because of your NDA, but I hope you become a rider. And you're like, yes, I hope I become a rider. You and me are just like looking at each other like we knew.
I mean, like, I really was being like on the side of like you, like, I hope I become a writer too. Shit, you know how awesome that would be.
Because I just know that like when you messaged me was around the time filming would have occurred on that one episode we'll talk about in a little bit. But like it was just funny how like you and me were like, yes, and like I remember
Wouldn't
one of
that be a great thing to happen? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like a friend of mine said to me, so this was all because of an NDA. You guys were just doing that like nod, like because you know NDA.
NDAs
Bam, all of a sudden
are mean.
All of a sudden Toei just comes kicking down our doors with like a SWAT team, and we're just like, John Toei, dun. I love John Toei memes. Hero Club has its own. I'll have to send it to you later. The John Toei Hero Club meme.
I mean, like, and like for me, right? Again, it's one of those things where like I'm you know, like this is a kid who grew up watching Toku and hero stuff his entire life. So I'm like, dude, I would love to become a writer. Because you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna get on the show, it's like, why not go for the whole kit and caboodle? Like, yo, can I be a writer?
Especially because nowadays everybody's a writer.
Right, you know what I'm saying?
Like a shoe could be a writer. A cat could be a writer.
And like it's kind of the thing, like, because I remember I had just watched the Revice movie, so I remember how like all the side characters started like, you know, in the movies they always get to be writers in the end, so they all get to do henshins and stuff. And I'm like, I hope I make it to that point where when it comes to the movie, yeah, me and me and John are side characters, but we get to be writers and do a henshin. So I'm not expecting that we got the henshin on screen when we did. I'm like taken aback by that because I'm like, I did not see that coming.
All right. I guess can you confirm? Like, I guess you can confirm or build off of this. But production did always intend for Ben and John to be non-Asian actors, I'm assuming, and you guys did not get a choice on what your names would be for those characters, correct?
You know, I don't know what was going on with that or how that actually came to be. So I don't know any of that. Like, I mean, probably eventually I'll find out because probably somebody's going to mention it in passing or make a joke about it, and it's going to come out and it's going to be like, oh, so that's what that was about. But then, like, I just found out there was like this legendary track star who was a runner named Ben Johnson. So, like, everybody kept making these jokes and memes like, oh, the next SP is going to be Sun. And I'm like, where the fuck is that coming from? Like, am I missing something? And then, like, I literally see, like, a couple of days ago, like, Ben Johnson. I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, because for me, it was just like, didn't see it coming. Didn't even know it existed. So I'm like, huh? What do you mean, Ben Johnson? Like, what is this Ben Johnson you speak of? Like, Ben Johnson. And I'm like, so who is Sun? Who is this Sun person going to be? And I'm like, I'm completely oblivious. And then I find out there's actually like a guy who was like famous in Japan for being, you know, a good runner, and his name was Ben Johnson. So I'm like, that is hilarious. And if we're actually named after him, that's even more hilarious. Like,
Yeah, because the reason I only asked that was because having talked with Ultraman Max or Shawn Nichols, he said that like a producer convinced Subaraya to make him be one of the characters in the show, but it was already very late in casting where they put out a casting call for his character, so they had to have him go to casting, pretend to do an audition that he already technically had, just because they didn't want to tell everyone go home. And he himself didn't know they did that until afterwards, where they said, we just made you go through the audition process because everyone showed up and it was already too late to tell everyone, get the F out of here.
He also said the character was written to be a Japanese actor.
Yes, he was written to be a Japanese actor, and not, that's how late in the game. So that's why I thought maybe we should ask you guys, did you know if you were supposed to be, black and American, white, or, just non.
Well, I mean, if they were...
Well, just basically gaijin.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say I did know or didn't know, and if it's something like that, I would have to find out. Like, I'd probably find out eventually, but I mean, like, Tom is more, more, how do you say, like, connected with that stuff than I am, so.
Jackson?
Yes?
Pull in right here in front.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Sorry, my brother just came. My brother just came. So it's like, he's like, hey, you're coming? I'm like, pull in. Like, I'm sorry. He's like, hey, we're going to hang out. I'm back from deployment. I'm like, gotta have an interview to do. So, yeah. So. But yeah, so it was kind of one of the things where like Tom is more connected with that stuff than I am. So I'm kind of just coming in and starting to learn a lot more about what's going on behind the scenes. And slowly but surely I'm starting to learn more as far as what's going on to the production of this series. And it's kind of like, oh, I'm learning some really good tidbits and nuggets right here. Some of it I can say, some of it I really, I can't say, as of now. But it's just like, oh, I'm learning more. Like, now I'm seeing another side of Toku I didn't know existed because, like, this is my first time actually working with a big production in Toku. So this is like the highest I've ever been, which is Toei. So I'm like, I'm there, so for me, this has never happened before. I'm like independent, doing like low grade stuff or lower level stuff, so I don't see like a lot of this stuff, but I've worked with people who have worked in that side. Like I've worked with pretty much Takaiwa. I've worked with Rider Man. I've worked with most of all the cast of freaking Die Ranger. I've worked with a few of the guys from Kaku Ranger. You know what I'm saying? Like I've worked with these people and done scenes and shoots with them before, but I've never been to this level. So it's kind of like for me to be a part of this level, it's like, oh my god, like whoa, okay, so this is totally different. I didn't see this coming. So just to learn so much more about what really goes into how this works, it's kind of an eye opener for me. Like, oh wow, okay, so that's how this works. Okay, so that's how this is, and it's pretty cool. Like I'm getting to learn a lot more, which helps me to navigate this better. With future plans, or if I'm ever going to keep doing this, or if I want to do more, or if I can do this or cannot. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm learning. I'm learning as I go.
All right. Also, to our newer members in the chat joining us, don't worry, your questions will be asked or answered when we get into breaks and intermissions. Some of the questions you guys are actually asking about Kamen Rider Geats at this time actually do correlate with ones that we already have pre-written. So don't worry, we're all in that like mindset, and we will get to most of them, and we will try to get as many as we can, as long as we're permitted. And Sana, for the next one, can you please do number 15?
Oh, goody. I don't know why I got so excited.
I don't know.
Let's see. You mentioned when we were talking in our like pre-planning stages. You mentioned the season was the series like Geats was more influenced by social media reactions. Could you better explain to the audience what that means and how it kind of affects maybe the role you have on the show?
Okay, so kind of like a little thing, right? Like Neko-chan, right? Neko is her name's Yuna Tachibana, so she is actually a YouTuber, and so you kind of see where I'm going with this, where they hired a YouTuber in real life to be a YouTuber on the show, who now is has a prominent role on the show. So you see where I'm going. Like this is like a big thing where it's like social media is really kind of like not per se carrying the show, but pushing the show along. Where it's like, okay, look, you guys are kind of dictating the show, and if you think like, oh, Toei's not paying attention to us, they actually are. So, like, you guys on social media are blowing up the show. Oh, hey, we want to see this happen. We want this to happen. We want this, that, and the other. So, from what I was told originally when I started portraying Ben, was that I was kind of like a one-off character, or I'm here and I'm gone kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really going to be a big character in the show kind of thing going forward. But then they're like, oh, well, we need to give you more. We need to give you more, more lines. We need to give you more appearances or more speaking roles on the show. We need to give you more involvement in the show. So we're kind of we're kind of just more. Sit down. Sorry. We're kind of more getting involved with the show as opposed to just originally just, okay, we're here and we're gone. You know what I mean? Like it kind of became one of those things where it's just like we're getting into the show, we do the show, then people like us, people want to see more, so they're giving us more. Then as it continuously goes on that they're giving us more, we kind of become these beloved characters. We're like the Bulk and Skull of Japan per se. You know what I mean? But we're just not like goofy clown idiots. We're actually like people with substance. You know what I mean? So I kind of like correlate the role to like Bulk and Skull.
All right, Toma, you can take 16.
Sit down.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why. Hold on a second though. With you telling your like brother to sit down, I don't know why. It was just so funny. Sit down. Sit.
As soon as he's looking off in the distance. Just
down, like. You guys can sit. It's okay.
I have to admit that because of work, I've not been able to really keep up much with Geats. But I'll just say that receiving your ID core is a major thing, not just for the audience, but for yourself. How did you find out that you got to be a writer and might get to henshin more in the future? And then how did you guys craft your transformation poses with Koichi-san?
Okay, so I don't know how much I can say about this. I'll say like it came to like when it comes to what we're doing in the show, we mainly go by the script. So they make a script and then we get the script and then we read the script and then from there it's kind of like okay, this is your role, this is what you're gonna do in this episode, or this is what you're gonna do in this episode. So it's dictated by the script. So, like we get to like one of the scripts and then it's like this thing where it's mentioning like, oh, there's a flashback of Ben and John, they're Kamen Riders, so they this, that, and the other. So then like Tom calls me and is like, dude, do you see this? We're gonna be writers. And I'm like, what? No, we're not. And then like read the thing, I'm like, oh, this is actually a thing. Okay, well, how does this go? Or how are we gonna then it's like, okay, well, now we gotta and so we've been talking about it for a while. We're just like, we gotta come up with our own henshin dances and this, that, and the other. This is gonna be cool. We get to do our own thing and this and the other. So this is what you're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it, and this and the other. So we worked on it, we made our own dances and whatnot, and then it kind of went from that to okay, we gotta make sure we know our lines and this and the other. So then we get, Koichi is directing this, so we're kind of like, yes, I love Koichi. Like I grew up watching his work, so I'm like, okay, I'm a big fan of Koichi. So for him, he just comes on set, he's like, hey, so you guys are gonna be writers? You excited about this? And we're all like, what? Like this is real? Like And then it's like, okay, yeah, I'm all for this. Let's do this. And then it was like, all right, well, now you're gonna do this. So it's like, you guys got your henshin dances? And we're like, oh yeah, we're ready. So that's kind of how that went about. But when it comes to doing the henshin dances, I think one of the things I can say is that like everybody's henshin dance you've seen on the show is not someone making that for them and then they had to learn it. Was them making their own henshin dances.
Interesting.
Yeah, to kind of sort of to match their own characters, right? Like kind of get the feeling of what their character would do.
Yeah, like their character or like their personality or what they wanted to do. Like, hey man, if you like, I mean, like for any of you guys watching this, you guys would say if like someone came to you and said, hey, you're gonna be a Kamen Rider, you have to make a henshin dance. You're gonna be like, I'm about to do this. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be like, I'm there. I'm about to make the most epic henshin dance of all time. So like when Tom and I talked, Tom's like, oh, I'm gonna be more traditional style. I'm gonna do like the traditional Kamen Rider. I'm like, okay, you take that. I'm definitely dancing. Like F that. Like I'm dancing. Like I'm gonna make this mine. You know what I mean? So just kind of that's where that came from. So we were practicing like the whole morning. Like okay, we're gonna do it like this. This is the beats. This is how we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this part. Then we're gonna do this part. We're gonna do this part. And we're gonna do this part. It's gonna go like this, and we're gonna do it like this, and then we do this, that, and the other. So we had like this long henshin dance worked out. And then, like when Koichi came over, he's like, okay, let's shorten it, but let's still make it, yours. And it's like, okay, sure, let's do it. And then, boom. And that's what you get when you watch the show. Now you see the henshin dance, and you're just like, oh, okay.
All right.
That's awesome.
For Gunspawner, we actually asked earlier in a break what his actual animal motif is, and that is actually the Black Panther. His motif is the Black Panther. Without having to reiterate that one, we did actually briefly touch on that earlier, and whatnot.
Oh, here's a question. In that same line, what's Tom's ID core animal? Do you know that?
White tiger.
It's a white tiger. So it's a Black Panther and a white tiger.
So there's like a funny joke with that, right? So we were on set and we were like looking at the ID cores. So they give him White Tiger, they give me Black Panther, and we started joking about like, hey, maybe we should switch ID cores. So technically, I had White Tiger at one time, and he had Black Panther. And then I was like, yeah, okay, this is cool. And then he's like, Wakanda forever, and I was like, no, give me that. I got to get back.
I just feel like it was like that. You're like your Wakanda forever privileges are over. Give me back. You can't.
So first we were making jokes about it, right? So he's all like, Wakanda forever. I'm like, White Tiger power, brother. Like, And then I was like, wait a minute, you do Wakanda forever? No, give me that. No, that's mine now. And it was like, here, you can have White Tiger. Like, White Tiger power. And I'm all like, Wakanda forever. He's like, you got to do that on this show.
So now you're saying Tom believes in white power.
No. Yes. No, maybe. We make so many jokes about it because it was just funny. And then and now it's actually a meme where somebody's like, "Oh, look, we got a gift from Kurama. Oh, look, I got White Tiger." And it's like, "Oh, I got black." It said Black Sabretooth on the thing, but it's Black Panther. But it's like, I got Black Sabretooth. Wait, why I gotta get the black one? It's like super funny. It's a super funny meme now. But I'm like, I love it because I was just like, that's kind of how it was. Like, wait, why I gotta get the black one? He's like, you chose this. I'm like, oh yeah, I did. Right.
All right. Toma, you can ask 17 too.
All right. Let me go back up. Moving on to the cast, how well do you get along with them, and what's it like working with Timefire? The actor who is Timefire, and some of the other actors who pop on that have been other past Tokusatsu actors.
Okay, so I'll start with the Timefire part. Working with Timefire is probably one of the most prolific things I've ever got to do. Because, I worked with a lot of my heroes in Sentai and Toku. So just being I get to add to the list, and now I'm actually doing scenes with him. It's pretty awesome. And then, him as a person, total sweetheart, coolest dude ever. Very funny, too. He's very goofy. So I was I told him, I'm like, dude, when I was a kid, I used to watch you. You were awesome. And he was like, really? And I'm like, yes, you were amazing. And he's just like, and then he kind of got shy about it. He's all like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, dude, don't even shy away from this. You're awesome. Take it, live in it. You were the man. It's like, I loved you in Timefire. You were cool as crap, man. You will always be cool in my eyes. And I'm like, I always loved your Timefire! I love that because I was just like, that was just awesome to me because it was the most epic appearance ever. You know what I mean? You get your appearances, but that was just one that stuck with me just because he had his own little theme music with it and it was cool. It's kind of like Mega Silver, it sticks with you because it was just one of those ones where you're just like, oh, this guy's awesome. I want to watch more of him. So we did our scene, our first scene together after we shot it. Then, we're changing and I'm all like, dude, can I take a picture with you? He's like, you want to take a picture with me? I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. And I'm all got the camera and I'm positioning the camera and trying to take the right picture. And he's going through the 50 faces of Timefire. He's all like, yeah, and he's just going through all these faces. I'm like, stop, take the picture. But it was the coolest thing ever. He was a really cool dude. And he's a very, very humble, very nice guy. I love him.
Remember what I told you? The next time you guys do a photo together, you gotta have him do the gun clap thing. You have to have him do the pose.
I'm gonna ask him next time I see him. I'll ask him. I'm like, hey, can we do it? I might try to get it in a video.
All I know is if I was there, I would just bring my DV Defender to him and be like, here you go. Do it the right way. Don't do it the wrong way.
That'd be funny. But, so it is what, that was what it was. But, working with the actors on set. So I've worked with, what is it? I've worked with Geats, of course, Ace. I've worked with Ace. I've worked with Neko, of course. I've worked with, Ninja. I've worked with him, which is cool. Was it Kawa? I've worked with him.
Don't worry, we don't remember his name either.
Oh, I talked to Buffa a couple of times. I talked to Buffa a couple of times. And the game masters and all of them. I've talked to them. I've talked to the mom. I've met, a lot of the characters I've met and just had conversation with them. And they're all super nice people. And it's really a good time. And I guess we stick more closer to Neon because of the fact that we're a trio, right? So we always we're always kind of close together because we're a trio. So it's cat gang. So we're always doing the cat poses and stuff. We make a lot of jokes about it, stuff like that. And it's super hilarious. But it's been
the one in the chat wants you to do the quote. Ojo-sama. Someone wants you to do that. Speaking of,
all right.
You gotta do it in that deep voice. You gotta do it. You gotta do it, man. You get it all only once, people. Once. Yep. You miss it, you're fucked.
All right, you guys ready for this?
All right.
Get your photo taking, recording devices ready because this is only happening one time.
Don't worry, we'll clip it on Twitch.
All right, ready? Ojo-sama. Kaeremasu.
We got it. We got the live people. All right. Good night, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
Good night, everybody. Bye. Like gone.
No, we got a few more questions, but yeah, no. Working with her. Sorry, tangent for that. Like you get to work with Neon a lot.
Did you get to work with Yamato Kinjo at all? I don't know if you. I don't remember if you mentioned him, but
Which one's Kinjo again?
Takeshi Goto Kuji. He was no son in Kyoryuja.
Oh, in the first episode.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't think he.
Yeah.
I don't think he got to work with him as a guest.
Actually, I saw him, but I didn't get to work with him because I wasn't like it kind of how one of the other things that works in like a lot of the shootings here. It's like maybe like in the States, everybody, you know how it is. Like with if you're shooting that day, you're on set. If you're not shooting that day, you're not on set. So I didn't actually shoot with him because I wasn't in a scene with him. So kind of like if we're kind of grouped in the same scene, we'll meet each other. But if we're not, then it's not going to happen. So I didn't actually meet him. I wanted to, but I didn't get to. So I was like, dang it. Like, darn.
He
I
was
missed
probably
that
there
one.
for like one day.
I mean, probably because I mean, when they do the shoots, they try to get them done very quickly, fairly quickly, you know. So it's kind of like okay, you're here, we're gonna get all your scenes done that we can get done today, and then you know, because sometimes it's kind of a scheduling thing. Where like, okay, what's your schedule? Because one of the things they do ask us is, what's your schedule? What days are you available? What days are you not good for? So then when they do shoot you, they're like getting everything they can possibly done because it might be a while before you can shoot again, but then they still have to get the episodes out. So you know, they kind of try to balance everything.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed when watching the shows. Is like some actors will just like vanish for 10 episodes, and I'm like, they're busy doing something else.
I mean, sometimes like in the show, it may not be that way because you might think, oh, they're not in the show for this reason or that reason, but then it's actually because maybe they have scheduling conflicts. Okay, they're in the show on this episode, but then maybe for the next 3 episodes they're not there because they're doing some other shoots or they're doing something else, and then they have to go do that, and then they'll come back, and then they'll be in that episode. So it's kind of a
I've noticed a lot of the mentor characters are doing like plays at the same time they're doing Kamen Rider, and so it's like they're like gone for 10 episodes. I'm like, that was when the play was on.
yeah, it's like that. It's actually kind of cool though because we kind of a little trade secret. We shoot in advance, and then once we shoot them and get everything done post production, then the episodes will come out as they come out. So it's kind of cool how they make that happen. You know, movie magic kind of thing.
And you're currently how many episodes out? In a sense, it's usually like a month's worth, right, or a month and a half.
Sometimes more.
Okay, because I know they usually try to be at least a month to 2 at best. I've heard in the past that's like their usual.
I'm going to reveal this. I don't know if I get in trouble for it. If I do, I can do. If I don't, I don't. But we shot episode 14 back in October.
Oh yeah, okay.
So early mid October, we shot episode 14. So like that's how long it's been that we were like kind of hold on to like, yo, we got to be writers, and I can't tell anybody. It sucks. So it was kind of that thing where it's like, oh, I get to do this, I get to be this, and I have this cool secret that's like history in the making, but I can't tell anybody for like 2 months. Like, this sucks.
Well, they can't get mad at you now because you know it's already out there that we know who you are.
Right.
So if they try to get mad at us for telling that little trade secret, well then, you know what? Come on, I'll take them all on. So,
who knows? I might get in trouble for it, but you know, if it happens, it happens. But
listen, if Shirakura has a problem, just send him to me. I'll take Shirakura on.
We'll ask him about Trinity.
Well, yeah, exactly. We'll ask him about Trinity.
They're gonna get to me before they get to you guys. So by the time you're like, "We'll take them on," I've already taken the blunt of it. I'm sitting there like laid out on my face, you know, butt in the air, just no pants, just gone.
You look like Raccoon, eh? Raccoon in the fight with Vegeta and that.
Pretty much, like I'm the Raccoon now. I'm just like I'm gone. Just
and then everyone just wheels. What happened? What happened to Michael? What happened to Michael? Next day, I'm like looking at your socials. Oh,
Toei Assassins.
Internet, pretty much. It'd be like a Fairy Odd Parents reference, like
John
internet. Like,
yeah. John Toei got him. Sorry, boys.
pretty much. That's pretty much what it would be. Like that. That's the funny part, So
I don't think they're gonna get that mad. I doubt anyone there knows what actually is going on right now.
they might be watching this. Hey guys, if you're watching, hi. See you soon. Let's shoot. Don't kill me.
How many viewers do we have, and how many people are in the chat, so that we can correlate to find out how many Toei Assassins are in are watching?
Yeah, anyone in the chat who isn't a Toei Assassin right now, hit follow on the Twitch channel, or leave us a nice comment down below. I don't know. I don't know. We all died right there. Maybe Toei came for all of us. I don't know.
I keep hearing Beauty and the Beast music coming from the other room. I don't know what the heck.
You know what I keep hearing? I keep hearing like water rushing. I also see a video where someone actually did the clip of Michael doing the clip, and he's just freaking out.
Your boss music.
Yeah.
Wait, what the? Oh!
Oh god, yeah, werewolf. Hey, why was there autosave? Oh no, not a boss.
Why is there a bunch of food lying around?
Right, and I thought I'm like, hey, there's a lot of power ups and stuff laying on the ground. What's going on? Oh no, it's a boss fight.
Exactly.
Then Ultra Zero did the Yo-ho-hoi, of course.
Imagine that was the last thing you hear before you get clapped.
Oh god,
Yo-ho-hoi, and it dies. And really? That was the last thing I heard?
I heard two Kaiser doing his little. Yeah, no, I would not want to hear that. No.
Oh my god, that would be.
You just hear a tambourine and some light singing. You're
like,
you know what? I'm just gonna leave.
Like you're just like, I'm out. It's like the SpongeBob reference. All right, I'm out.
I'm dating myself with this one, but it'd be. Imagine if you were like a villain or something, and all you heard was the big one, and then you died. Like, bro, you know how much that would suck? Or imagine you just heard time fire, and you're just like, wait, what? Dies.
I would just love for more Tokusatsu heroes to I would love to more Tokusatsu heroes to just quick henshin, and you just immediately hear exceed charge, and you're just like, wait, what? Are we supposed to have a fight first? Nah, death. Death to death.
It's like Aberanger with Abari Black when he transforms, and the monster's like, "Ah, I'm giant. What are you gonna sword dies?" And you're just like, "Oh, that sucks."
We need a Tokusatsu done from the perspective of the mooks and the monsters.
Yeah,
exactly. Because I would be the one who would make something like that, because I'm just that kind of guy that makes stuff like that. Where I'd just be sitting there, and he's you remember the original pilot for Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, when he's doing the transformation, and it was this long super speech that was drawn out. I would be the guy from the perspective of the monster was so
do we just let him do it?
Do we let him do this, or do we fight him, or do we hit him, or what do we do? Because I don't know what he's just talking, and I don't know who he's talking to, but he's saying a lot of stuff. We should really clap this guy right now, because I don't know what this is gonna he could be saying a spell for a super magic power that might kill us all. Can we just off this guy? And it's just nah, let him finish.
And you're referring to the part where you're referring to the original pilot where Jason's got his morpher up like this, and he's just blah blah.
Yeah, and he's
blah.
He's talking, and his clothes are melting off and stuff. Remember, and it's the and his clothes are melting off. I'm like, bro, this was actually long.
Every time I see
how
it,
has nobody killed him yet?
I think of Mystic Knights, because he's just basically doing power of fire above me. It's the same pose. It takes just as long.
Right? Mystic Knights of Tyrannog all over again. Oh my god. I love that show, even though it was crappy, but it's just they're all standing there. Fire within me! What's around me? Air above! I'm like, bro, kill them!
Here's a question. Have you heard the actual European opening for the show?
Oh my god.
For which show? Mystic Knights?
Yes, Mystic Knights had like a
No,
full-on.
I need to hear this.
It's like this actual like Gaelic Irish like Celtic song where it's like Mystic Knights are here to save us all, and it's like actually like
it's a whole
done.
song. I'll find the music video. It got remastered.
Yeah,
in 4K
you need to
recently.
send. You need to send.
Oh, I
Fitz
need
the
to see
music
that.
video.
I mean, because it's almost the same as the American one, just not as bad. But it's pretty much the fucking
Yeah, no,
same.
it's actually pretty banger because like when you have the actual like Celtic music and stuff in the background, it's like that should have been your opening. It's cheesy.
Knights of Tiranogue. Mystic Knights
Yeah,
of Tiranogue. I'm like, bro, what are we doing right now? This is like, what is it? What is it? Teenage
alien fighters from Beverly Hills.
Yes, or Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad all over again. Like, she's like, huh? So she gets it. She gets it.
Yep.
It could be worse.
Like-
It could be the WMAC Masters.
Oh my god.
NASCAR.
No.
Was it the NASCAR one?
No. The NASCAR one was a cartoon. The
Yeah.
WA was their weird like let's be Lucha Underground before Lucha Underground. Like someone like what it was like the like half of like the Power Rangers team was also the Mortal Kombat live action movie team. And like let's make our own Mortal Kombat for TV, and it bombed.
I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Dang, somebody took down the high quality version of the music video.
Oh.
Well, I'll get it for you later. I have means. Anyways,
The legal means. All right, let's go. Let's go back to the.
Go on to our next question.
Yeah, let's go to the next question because we only got actually 4 left. So people, if you have last minute questions, start fucking writing them because we only got 4 questions left.
You better write them or you won't get a chance. It's one and only.
This is your shot.
Actually, we
write them
technically
in the
have
chat
5
while we
because
answer these. Or
we technically
ask
have
these
5
easy
questions
ones.
left because Olga sent me one in a DM just a little while ago.
Also,
Okay, anyways,
if anyone wants to DM me on Twitter, I got Twitter open, so.
Don't DM him. Don't. It's a bad time. Anyways. Dada, just read the next one.
Someone just DM'd me. Oh wait,
Read the
that was
next
a bot.
one.
Never mind. What is the environment like on set, and what is it like working with the different directors?
The environment on set is really interesting for me just because, again, I'm new to the whole, like, I'm kind of getting that star quality treatment when it comes to how people, treat me and address me. I mean, I still get scolded every now and again if I do something stupid or whatnot. That's totally cool. I don't mind that. But there's also that fact that it's like, oh, wow, like I'm actually a somebody kind of feeling, like they actually care about my well-being or this, that, and the other. Or, hey, we have your own personalized water bottle with your name on it. Here, have something to drink. And I'm just kind of like, what? And it's cold? Like, what? Like, this is new? Like, that's kind of cool. Oh, and I get a straw. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like, Mama, I made it. I got a straw. Like,
Oh God! No.
Actually, in
Oh, my
the
God.
entertainment and filmmaking world, getting a straw is an achievement.
Sound
right.
bad.
So I got this like really big water bottle with a straw just hanging out the side. And I'm just like,
I mean, like step 1 was getting a cold water bottle, and then step 2 is getting a straw.
Sound
no,
bad.
like step 3 is like the fact they actually keep the water bottle cold the entire time I'm on set.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, they got their own personal coolers, and like my water bottle sitting in there. I'm like, oh my god, like this is awesome.
Sada, do you know why when he said straw, do you know what it made me think of? When Jerry said, sometimes I just disassociate because I got a straw next to me. our friend Cows has disassociation problems due to one of his mental health issues. And like he was like, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. If we ever end up going anywhere together and you just see me playing with a bendy straw, rip it from my hands because I'll think it's the best thing ever all day. And he's like, we could be meeting like the famous athletes and I'll be thinking the straw is the best thing all day.
Dude, I'm with you because it's better than sliced bread all day. Like,
And also, like, when you said about how you looked earlier, like, hey, I could be looking like a serial killer, but maybe I'm just wondering, what kind of pizza do I want? I really like cheese pizza. That's such a Kaus thing, and I'm mad that he's not here. I am mad that Kaus is not here right now to see all of these Kaus moments.
Well, like for the record, I have PTSD. So, like, hey, man, mental health is very important. Take care of
Yes.
yourself. You guys know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
like I'm, make it a little serious moment, but you guys take care of your mental health because it's very important to always be in a good space. And if you're not in a good space, make sure you
Yeah.
have people that can bring you back to a good place, as opposed to just being on your own and dealing with it and suffering. Like, you never want to be in that situation. So, from me to you, I go through it. I'm there with you. Hey, you're not alone. You got a Kamen Rider who's got PTSD problem. So hey,
And I like when you're like, you got a Kamen Rider. I'm like, no, we got two Kamen Riders, you and Black Sun from the Amazon series. Hey,
I
what does
love
Kamen
Amazon.
Rider Geats' Black Panther have with Kamen Rider Amazon's Black Sun? They both have PTSD.
I mean, here's the thing too: is until the show reveals what your Kamen Rider name would be, we can just keep calling you Kamen Rider Black Panther because that's all we have to work with.
I get that, or I get Kamen Rider Ben a lot. So that's pretty funny. Kamen Rider Ben. I'm like, that is so stupid. Stop calling me that. No, Kamen Rider Ben. And I'm just like, oh my god, it
Blame
sucks.
Well,
Toei in the last several years of Rider
yeah,
when they're just like,
everyone gets a
what
new.
should that person's Kamen Rider name be? All right, they're Jin. Their Kamen Rider name is Kamen Rider Jin. It's like,
Well, one of the things that I grew to learn about like Toei and how they do their stuff when it comes to Kamen Riders and stuff is it's actually based off the kids. So like what they'll do is like every year they'll do a poll where like, oh, what's the most popular thing that you like on this list? And then kids will like choose, oh, I like trains, or oh, I like animals, or oh, I like planes or something. And then whatever gets the most votes becomes the next motif for like the Kamen Rider, which is a really cool thing. I thought that was very interesting. It's one of the things where I'm like, oh, they actually get the kids involved because the kids are watching this. You know what I mean? So, when Deno was the thing, trains were actually big at the time. So you got Deno, and then eventually Tokyo comes out, and you're just like, dude, okay, so they're actually like listening to these things and they're seeing these things. So they see what they like, and then they're like, oh, I like this, and then they choose that, and then that becomes like their motif. So I'm not sure if kids voted for Foxes or whatnot, but if it wasn't Foxes and it was a battle royale video game style thing, good job, guys, because you guys made that happen. You guys made that happen, not us. You. Good job. Like,
if Bandai loves
Man.
anything, it's surveys. That's for sure.
All
I've
right.
seen so many surveys out of Bandai for like everything. And I'm like, you know what? That's how you do market research. You just ask the audience, hey, what do you want? And then get instant feedback at that point.
and that's the thing that makes it work is that they actually listen. It's not just a, oh well, they're just like, oh, okay, they like this. Go with that. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question. I'll do that one. I don't even remember where we're at. All right. 19. This one's gonna get us probably in a lot of trouble. It's safe to ask though, you personally, where would you like to see the show go? Like, what would you? Just we're already a month ahead. Pretend you don't know what's going on. Just where would you like to see the show go? Like, what would be an interesting thing you would like to see without spoiling? Just like you personally, just disconnect yourself from like what's actually going on. Just make shit up. I don't care. You can just make something way off, and then if it ends up being true, we can just laugh our asses off as you unironically calling it.
I don't really have too many picky things where I'm like, I wanted to go this way or to go that way. I kind of like where the show has been going and all the like how this show has more plot twists than M Night Shyamalan, all of his movies combined, and I'm kind of okay with that. But I like the twist and turns that it takes. It kind of takes you on a roller coaster of emotion, like left, right, and center. And for me, I'm okay with that. I am totally for this. Like as a storyteller, as a guy who has to write scripts, as a guy who has to make stuff, and as a guy who has to like legitimately, make toku and stuff like that. I am like, I have no complaints. I am actually satisfied with where this is going. What what routes it's taken and how it's going. Like I'm like, okay, this is totally different for me, but I'm enjoying it. It's kind of like Ryuki all over again, but if you took Ryuki and mixed it with X8 and actually made it cooler, you know what I mean? Like it actually makes sense. And to me, it's cool because I get to see something that I haven't seen before. But instead of being like, oh, I think it's going to go this way, or I think it's going to go that way, I'm more of a like, you know what? I got no complaints. I want to see where this takes me because I'm enjoying the ride as we go through. Like whether it finishes out strong or finishes out crappy, like most Kamen Rider series do. Like I'm like, okay, be it what it may, but I'm going to enjoy the ride. So that's kind of my stance on it. I don't have like a one like I wanted to go this way, I wanted to go that way. I'm just like, take me along for a heck of a ride.
All right. Sound at 20. You.
All right. So since you're a fan of the Tokusatsu, and you know that the international fandom is sort of infamously hectic, like it's a little bit all over the place. How is it? How's the Tokusatsu fandom in Japan in comparison?
The Tokusatsu fandom here is kind of interesting because it's either a bunch of kids, like, because mainly, remember, it's geared towards the children.
A lot of
Because
international
the
fans forget
children,
this.
yeah. So, like in Japan, it's not about the adults, it's about the kids. Like, for the kids are going to watch it. And then because the kids are watching it, the parents are going to watch it. And not only are the parents watching it, but then you also got the people who grew up watching it, who have a nostalgic feeling about it or just love Toku. They're going to watch it too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it's a little something for everyone. And you got to remember, at the end of the day, you're selling a product. You're selling the show, but you're also selling the toys, you're selling the belt, you're selling all of these things, and you got to make it where people want to buy this. So if you sell it to the kids, you got to make sure that you're highlighting the buckles. You got to make sure you're highlighting every last attachment to that buckle. You got to make sure you're highlighting every weapon that comes out. You make sure you're highlighting every character that comes out because there's going to be figures, right? So it's kind of funny because like you have like your vinyl figures and then you have like your figure arts. The SH figure arts are going to be more of adults buying that than the kids. Some kids might actually get it, but then when you're talking about the weapons and the gear and the belts and all the attachments to the belts, you're talking about the kids buying all of that. So if you're making it where the kids want to buy this belt, then you're doing a good job because now you're selling a product that they can actually enjoy, that they want to keep collecting for. That's why there's so many attachments that go along with this thing. So you're just like, hey, oh, this belt just came out with three new with like, oh, the new Geats belt just came out with like three new buckles. You're gonna want to buy those buckles because you just saw them in the show and they looked epic, and then they made it look epic when they were fighting with it. So you're like, I want that buckle. I got to get that buckle. You know what I'm saying? So all these attachments are going to be sold because the show is actually doing well. Not just because the show exists, but because the show is actually doing well and spotlighted it enough to where, hey, I actually want this. I mean, shoot, we watch the show and we're like, that belt is epic. I want that belt, right?
Oh, that's happened
It's
to me. I have a $300 Agito belt because of how great Agito was.
All right.
see?
I'm gonna say this right now. So the reason I got my Desire driver was my friend was like, "Hey, Wheels, you can cash in your birthday gift. I owe you whenever you want." My birthday was in April. I was like, "Yo, I want the belt," and he was like, "This motherfucker," and he's monitoring our chat right now as we speak.
Nice. Way to collect, man.
So
I'll give you props on that.
my friend Ben bought me the Desire driver, which you use as a character named Ben. Benception.
Oh, the irony.
The Benception.
The Ben conundrum.
Exactly.
Ben is
Too
going to
many
be a part of
Bens.
your lives.
Too many Bens.
Buckle in and get ready. I'm in your life now.
Uh-oh.
Exactly.
But that's cool, right? So you see how it made you like, hey, man, I like this belt. I like what it does. I want this belt. Then what the directors have done works. And like for me, I've worked with three different directors so far on Geats, and I have to say I have enjoyed all three of them. And I've worked with a lot of ADs as well, but I've enjoyed working with them because it's just been a fun experience, and everybody is kind of their own person with their own style, their own personality, and it works.
All right.
Okay.
What's the next question we got here?
Number 21.
Okay. Yeah, all right. 21's technically our last one, and then we have just a couple of random ones from like our chat and whatnot before we can wrap up, since we know your brother's there and that, and so we've
also been going for 3 hours and 6 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me, you know what, you asked like the last main question that we wrote, and then we'll do some of the chat written ones before we have to wrap up.
Okay. Do you have any favorite types of tokusatsu, like franchises or genre? And can you be specific? I mean,
like you can be specific or vague. I wrote.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. You can go all over the place with this one, since it's like franchise genres, particular things about tokusatsu.
Yeah, like I know you haven't mentioned Ultraman a lot, but I know that one's my favorite of all the franchises. So.
And that's also technically mine, and Soundouts is like technically Sentai and Ultraman.
Yeah.
Well, no, technically my favorite's Garo. You always keep forgetting that, Wheels.
No, Garo doesn't count here.
Yokoyama, that's my teacher. That's his thing. Yep. That's his baby.
Garo needs to go away from them.
It has gone away. What are you talking about? Yeah. It's been dead for 2 years.
Oh, sadness. But it's so, hey, believe it or not, it's kind of prolific here. Like, believe it or not, like, it's actually pretty big here. But I'll say Garo was a good one for me. Bima, because I was associated with the directors who created those shows, you know what I mean? Like, and Bima, was more of Indonesia's thing, but it was done by a guy who's from Japan, who I've done work with, who, like I became a close friend of. And he went to Indonesia and was like, I'm going to make my own hero, Bima. And then, like, next thing you know, Bima's like super epic. And I'm just like, holy crap, he did this. And he used to be a Ultraman director for a really long time. So he's just kind of like, I'm gone. And he made his own thing. And it's like, he knew what he was doing. And it was good. I am a big fan of Sentai all the way up until, like, Gokaiger. And then from, like, Gokaiger, I haven't really had, like, it hasn't really had a big impact on me. One, because I got more busy in my actual personal life that I haven't really had the time that I sit down and watch a lot of stuff nowadays. Mm-hmm. But when I do watch something, I'm kind of like, or okay, that wasn't that bad, or is that any other, like, there's like, maybe if the show wasn't that great, it's something about the show that I'm like, okay, I like this aspect of it. Like, I watched Kyoryuger, and like I saw the live stage of it in Japan, and that was probably one of the coolest experiences for me that made me want to pursue stunt work and toku work more seriously, because, I saw like a really cool scene, and I'm like, to see this in person is probably one of the most coolest things ever, because I don't think I would have ever seen this on, like a scene on television is one thing, but seeing it in like real life, you're standing there watching it, is a totally different thing, And this is when Kyoryuger was very popular here. This is when Kyoryuger came out in Japan. So, whatever current show is popular on the Sentai and the Kamen Rider side, they'll do live shows of it on stage. So at the time, it was Kyoryuger, and I forget what Sentai it was, but I remember there was Wizard, because Wizard was out at the time. Yeah. So they were doing a lot of like live stuff with that. So I watched both shows where they did like multiple writers came out, because like Forze came out, Meteor came out, like O's came out. Like, it was cool, seeing these guys do this stuff on live stage. And then like and first we watched the Kyoryuger show. So Kyoryuger was out meeting people and talking to people, shaking hands, taking pictures with the kids and all. It was like really cute. And then they did the live show. So I remember watching the show, and they're like, I told this to Wheels as an experience of mine, but it was a really cool experience for me, where they're fighting all over the place. I was like, like you see those like Sentai shows and movies where they're in like this like studio area, and people are sitting in the audience and they're watching something, and then like the monsters barge in and start attacking everybody and this and the other. That's actually Toku's like live stage. That's actually their stage. So when they do their live shows, they're doing it in this area. So this is a really big kind of Jungle Gym-esque, kid zone, discovery zone kind of play area where they do all kinds of stuff and have all kinds of things that can happen. So, the heroes come in. They came in on wire action. They didn't come in just walking through the doors and fighting people through the audience. No, they came in out of the rafters like Sting and freaking WCW's like, Starcade 97 or something, like they're in there. They just come out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh my God, that's so cool, so you kind of you're already like, eyes are glued on the stage. I want to watch this. And I remember they're fighting all the minions, and they're just going at it. Red's over here, pink's over there, green's over there, blue's over there, and black is over here doing his thing. So what really stood out to me was in the middle of this, black somehow disappears and he ends up in the rafters. You're talking about like 30, 50 feet in the air, in the rafters, and he's fighting these guys in the rafters. So then more minions come out and he's surrounded. So he decides he's going to jump off and do like a 540 sentai splash, like the flip, and he's rotating, falling out of like 50 feet in the air. Like there's no wires, there's no nothing. He's doing this on his own. So in the middle of him doing this flip and jumping out of the rafters, he immediately, in the middle of his rotations, he's done about 4 or 5 rotations, he lays out completely straight and he puts his Gary revolver out and he shoots the guys that were on the backstage, and the stage explodes. These guys pretty much die, and he falls into this pit out of nowhere. And I'm like, bro, did I just like I'm flipping? I am like flipping tables. I am losing my shit because it was like the coolest scene ever. Because I'm like, this happened in a span of 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It sounds epic as crap, and it sounds like it was happening. Like when I was watching, it was like in slow motion, but this was like a 2-second thing. It was like, boom, gone. I'm like,
Whoa!
yo, like, did anybody see that? Because it wasn't like he just, it's not like he's like flipping. He's like shooting while he's flipping. No, he literally lays out completely flat in the air out of like 4 rotation flip, and he shoots them. And I'm like, bro, like I'm like, I want to do that. That is me. I want to do that. So I'm going to do this. Like, it was like the craziest thing ever. And I'm like, no matter what they did after that one point in the show, I was like, it's not as good anymore. Because I just saw the coolest stunt ever. And I'm like, nothing's going to top this for the rest of the show. But it hit me deep where I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's literally us every time Discotech Media announces like something we wanted them to announce forever.
Yep.
Pretty much, right? So you're like, oh my God, this actually happened. Yo. So I'm like, all right, dude, like, this makes me want to do stunt work more. So that's when I met my senpai at the time, who was Kamen Rider Impaler's suit actor for Ryuki. This is when I met him, and he's like, hey, man, I'll teach you some stuff. I'll let you know this, and I'll let you know that, and boom, 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 boom. So it was kind of this thing where I'm like, okay, Kyoryuger, for that one thing, had a very big impact on me, because it was kind of like, it fueled my fire more to want to do stunt work and want to do more toku work. And, like I said, I love Kaku Ranger. Kaku Ranger and Dai Ranger are 2 of my most favorite Sentais right off the rip. Dai Yellow, Kid Ranger, is all time my favorite Ranger, like all time, because I do martial arts. I'm a wushu, Chinese martial artist. I actually do Drunken Monkey and Drunken Style. So that's kind of, for me, that's like it hits home for me. Plus, his pose was epic as shit. I don't care what anybody says. It's probably one of the best Sentai poses ever.
Yes, it is 100% one of the best ones. And the fact that, him and his brother are like badass mofos in general.
Exactly. So you're just kind of like, yo, boom. I was like, well, the first time I ever saw him do his henshin pose and like he does this like introduction call, and I'm just like, I'm hooked on this show. This show is amazing. Then I completely watched the entire series, and I'm like, Dai Ranger is one of the most amazing shows ever made.
I tried that.
I actually legit might be like spoilers, but then the show's been out since the freaking 90s. So if you haven't watched the show ever, I don't know what rock you're living under, but stop being a Patrick Star and get out and watch the show. But when Kaku dies, I legitimately cried, because I was like, yo, I actually loved him as a mentor, and just kind of how what kind of an impact he had on that show was just so, because like mentor characters are kind of there, but they're not really involved. And this is kind of why Dai Ranger is one of my favorite shows, but also why Deca Ranger is one of my favorite shows, because the mentor characters in both of those shows are like 2 of my all-time favorite characters as Sentai, because they're just, not only are they there, they're in the action, they have something they're fighting for, they have something that they're doing something for. So for me, it really stuck out to me like, okay, these guys are awesome because they're actually fighting for a real reason. I'm a big Deca Master fan. You saw my cosplay. I have a Deca Master costume that actually has the helmet that lights up. So if you push there's like a little button under my helmet. If you push it, the sirens actually go off. So people kind of flip about that because they're like, wait a minute, it has lights. That's so cool, So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm Deca Master. I still have to make the sword eventually, but I haven't made the sword yet.
I do have. Sorry, I do have a little bit of a follow-up question. I know you said you haven't really been following up with like Super Sentai since, but being on Geats, do you have to keep tabs on Dawn Brothers at all, or because
I haven't
companion stuff, or
right. So with Dawn Brothers, right, because of the whole Geek thing and everything blowing up, I see a lot more stuff about Dawn Brothers, but it kind of puts me in this situation where I'm like, oh, I want to see more about this because this looks interesting. I think that the show would actually be very interesting. I want to watch the show more. So I'm actually getting to the point where when I have more free time coming up, I'm going to actually check out Dawn Brothers because I keep seeing so much stuff about it where people are like, Dawn Brothers is epic. You need to watch this, that, and the other. And I'm just kind of like, I'm there. Like usually fandoms ruin things for me, but this is one of the few times in my life where fandoms have actually put me on something where it's like, dude, you need to watch this. You're gonna love it. So I'm kind of like, okay, Dawn Brothers is on my to-do list.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
All right. So we're on to our last few questions from the chat.
Chat questions.
I don't think any chat questions have been so far. Everyone's just been saying, "Yo, Gunzy wrote, yo, that's like an SSX tricky trick, like you said, would call you black." Everyone's quoting, Die Ranger and Deca Ranger right now. People are talking about that. People are talking about Dawn Brothers in the chat, like Dawn Brothers Chaos. Watch it.
I'm waiting for Dawn Brothers to finish before watching it because I feel like it's going to be an amazing binge, just as the madness continues throughout its run.
Yeah. So Olga asked. So one of the questions I got was from our friend Olga. Also, another guy in the chat called Starboy asked a very similar question. Olga was like, if you had to pick to become like a Kamen Rider from a previous era, whether it be Showa, Heisei, Heisei Phase 2, and Reiwa, which one would you choose per era?
Okay, at least you made it per era instead of just like one, because that would just be really hard to choose, and I wouldn't choose one. But if I have to choose per era, Showa, I'm definitely going with Amazon because I'm a big Amazon fan, and I don't care what anybody says. Amazon is one of the best shows ever. If I'm going Heisei, it's a tie: Wizard or Kabuto, because they're just both of them are prolific for me, and I'm just a big fan of both. If I'm going Reiwa, I'm definitely going with Geats. I don't care what anybody says. Geats is amazing. It's my favorite show of Reiwa era. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, I'm there.
All right. I'll just ask these so we can just start wrapping up. Our friend GLE asks, well, he says, Wheels, I'm a basic bitch, so I gotta ask this one. Are you a Gundam fan, yes or no?
Of course I am. If you actually look at my thing and you see Tenchi 0080, the 0080 is actually from Gundam. Most people don't know that, and I have to actually tell them that the 0080 is from Gundam.
I had a
because
feeling.
I'm a big Gundam.
I had a
Yeah, I
feeling
assumed
it
had to be War in the Pocket.
Yeah, it's all Gundam. Because I'm a Mobile Suit, 0080, 0081, Zeta, like all the Gundams I pretty much love. I haven't really gotten into the new series yet, but I will get to them eventually. But
I knew you were already into Gundam because you mentioned to me the other day when you saw Sound Out's icon being Harry Ord, and you're like, wait, what's that from? And then we're like, oh, it's Harry Ord. You're like, oh yeah, I love Tournay.
See? And like Stardust Butterfly is still one of the coolest moves ever. Because, think about it. You got clapped by a dude who turned into a butterfly. Like, your life sucks.
Dude, remember the final fight? Him and Gingham was like, our mobile suits are incapacitated. Fight me like a real man, and they just start fighting with katanas. That shit was
and
nuts.
Loran's just like,
right. It's kind of like
it takes
that'd be me with like it'd be like Char's counterattack when they're like, "Oh, I can't fight with my Gundam. I can't fight with my Sazabi. Okay, well, fuck it. I'm gonna chase you on a freaking horse with a sword. Just like, come here." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm actually all for this. This is actually awesome." So big Gundam fan, love it. If I have to say what my number one favorite Gundam is, it would always be the Death Scythe and the Death Scythe Hell Custom, and a second, and my 2 and 3 would be the Sandrock and the Heavy Arms, respectively. because I'm a big Gundam Wing fan, and Gundam Wing just had some of the best Gundams ever. And everybody shits on the Sandrock Gundam, but I actually love the Sandrock Gundam because that is a Gundam that, like, depending on how his pilot feels, will either clap you easily or clap you in the most gruesome way possible. Example: his blades, he could heat them up. Remember that one guy that he's like fighting, and he's just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm just gonna put my blade on your head," and he leaves it and walks off, and I'm like,
Yes.
bro, imagine being in that while that's happening, because I would be like crapping myself on that point, because it's just like me, death, and I'm like, bro, that, like, just waiting for your death to happen in such an epic way or prolific way. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm like, bro, shoot me with bullets and kill me, like, blow me up real quick, because I can't sit there for that, But big Gundam fan at heart, so if you guys are into Gundam, hit me up with Gundam stuff. I'm definitely there with you. I will do it. I will entertain you on that. I play a lot of the Gundam video games. I have played a lot of them, and I have competed in a lot of like Gundam games as well. So hey.
All I know is Og is messaging us in the main Hero Club group chat. He's like, "Motherfucking Sandrock."
Yes. But Death Scythe will always be number one. I don't care what anybody says. God of Death is part of where my moniker of Angel of Death comes from. So like Angel of Death is like my gaming name. It's been my name since Unreal Tournament back in the day in the like early '90s and whatnot. So if you want to learn a little something about me, that's my trivia. Angel of Death comes from God of Death and Gundam. So boom, hey.
And
I'm like too big of a Gundam fan because I got asked to do a tier list of all the Gundam anime I've seen for my YouTube channel, and it ended up being a 4-part series because I've seen like everything I can get my hands on, which is pretty much everything.
Only a 4-part?
Oh, 4 parts, like 40 minutes apiece.
That's it? That's it? No, I'm joking.
Oh, no. It's funny because like they got depreciating views because like I was like, I'm going to do all the TV shows, then I'll do all the movies, then I'll do the OVAs, and then the last one was just like all the SD Gundam shorts and the festival shorts and the things projected
let's just say
on the wall
Sound
behind the statue.
He went into goddamn depth where even the Gundam fan base was like, "Get the fuck out, just stop." They were just like, "You're done."
They're like, "Why
It's
are you
over.
ranking the Young Jump Gundam crossover short?" I'm like, "Cause it had a story."
Like, if you go SD Gundam with me, I'm like, I'm done after that part. At that part, I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
I've seen every SD Gundam thing. I'm a horrible person.
Like, SD Gundam kills me. That's why I was happy when Gundam Evolution came out, and I'm like, I've been waiting for this, and I'm just like, we need another Dynasty Warriors Gundam.
Yes.
Like, 3 was great, but we need another one. I'm sorry. Like, we need a 4.
3 and the 4th one was the best one.
No, forget Destiny, Seed, and Seed Destiny were ass. I don't care what anybody says. I cannot stand Seed and Seed Destiny.
Oh no, I don't like Seed and Seed Destiny either.
Because they did make a Muso Seed and Seed Destiny, so like there's that. But I'm like,
the 4th one was called Gundam Reborn.
It was
Muso,
different in Japan. Yeah. I think the title was different in Japan.
I don't remember what.
That one had Seed and Seed Destiny, Zeta New Translation.
Yeah.
Frickin' there was another series in there. Unicorn was in there.
Do I need to bring anything?
I just know GLE's like, yeah, it's technically partially his fault getting Sound Out even deeper in, because pretty much me and GLE just grabbed Sound Out and drug him into the abyss that is Gundam.
Yep, and I went further than anybody should.
Yes, and that's why Sound Out's gonna get canceled after this stream.
By the Gundam fandom again?
Yes, again.
Oh.
Another question we got is if you were if you as yourself were in the Desire Grand Prix, what would you wish for? Like actually you, not the character, I guess. What would you?
That's a tough question, actually. Maybe this is a little too realistic and on the nose, but I guess if I was to wish for something, I wish that a lot of what has happened in the world didn't happen, and that, kind of the world just, I don't know, reshifted and it became something better than what it actually is. Because, I mean, granted, speaking that, there's a lot going on in the world where there's a lot of problems and a lot of issues, and there's people who can't, deal with it, or there's no way to deal with it, or there's no way to get by it, or whatever the case may be. So that would kind of be a thing for me where it'd be like, okay, the world technically gets a reset and everything's kind of a little bit better, kind of like a redo the healer kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like better in a way. Like I wouldn't like reset the world and exact my revenge. I'd just be a little more reset the world and actually change a lot of the crap that actually happened.
Yeah, because if you do the redo healer way, there's gonna be a lot of sexual allegation cases coming up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, redo healer. Dark.
Good story.
Okay.
Good story, actually.
Anyway, we had two other questions. Well, actually three. One I don't think we're gonna do because one was like, "Can you do the henshin pose?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna make you do that with you on the camera on your phone. No way, we're gonna do that today." If people want you to do the hench, and they can go back and rewatch the episode, or you can post a video of it later. That's not available to us at this time. One, do you at least get to keep a copy of your ID core, or does the production team just keep all assets of that? Do you guys actually get to keep them? The silence says no. Oh, he's on mute. I think he's on mute because he has to think if he can ask that one. Answer that one.
Yep. That one's a tough one.
Or he's on mute and just doesn't know it. I don't know. The silence, man. This is great. Just his reaction about, do you guys get to keep a copy or does, yeah. Well, people, I think we broke him. He'll come off mute eventually, right?
Maybe. I don't know. We just have to vamp in the meantime.
Okay. That is okay, that's a good question. Well, most with anything, there's like, okay, hey, we're gonna use this in the production and whatnot, but we kind of can't just hold on to it and keep it. So I would say there's that aspect. Do I want to keep it? Yeah. But then there's also like I've seen a lot of people that have somehow made their own ID cores and they actually look really good. And I'm kind of like, I want to blow somebody up and be like, yo, you give me that.
Yeah, Tokulectables. Tokulectables somehow got their own custom one for their toy store.
And honestly, I've seen them and I'm like, that is actually very spot on from the one I held in my hand. So I'm kind of like, I want that.
I do. I do too. I want I want one that's like their little sparkly freaking clear blue, but in like a sparkly clear red with a specific logo for my own, because I would like my own custom ID core.
Well, see, there you go. Like, it's one of those things you could do.
It looks like Bandai just announced their first P Bandai ID core set, and Ben and John's ID cores are not in it, which is a disgrace.
Wait! They actually did announce it.
They announced, like, while we've been streaming, they announced an ID core set.
Get the fuck out!
But Ben and John's aren't in there, so.
All right. You know what? That's incredible. That's ironic. Fuck us, right? Fuck us. Fuck all of us right here. No, it will come. It will come. But that is just the best irony.
They're probably just gonna do like an ID core set every quarter or something. Cause
yeah, no, that's just amazing. That's just ironic though that they announced an ID core set, but not the ones that we're interested in right at this moment. Also, where our friend Ware has I think the best question to go off on. All right. Ware's question is, at least for original Japanese side, because in America, we've already had, Black Kamen Riders due to Dragon Knight. But in Japan, what's it like possibly being the first true African-American Kamen Rider? What's the first black, what's it like for you, with the possibility that you might become one?
Well, I'm not African, so I can't say much on that one.
Okay. Well, black.
No, I'm joking.
I was thinking in the back of my head while I was sitting there. I was just like, Wheels, how do you know his ethnic background?
No, I'm totally giving you shit, man. It's kind of, I don't know. It's crazy, right? Because it's like I would have never expected that I'd be making some type of history on a show that's existed for over 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, huh, I get to be the first to do this. And then what makes it even funnier is nobody really knows here that I'm actually doing it. So it's kind of okay, I'm making history, and nobody knows I'm making history in their own country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think out of all the people I've ever met, only one guy actually learned that I was like on Geats, and he's like, I watch Geats every weekend, and I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, I'm Ben. And he's like, no, you're not, and I'm like, yeah, I actually am. And then he's like, prove it. So then I'm like showing him pictures on my phone and stuff, and then he's like, wait a minute, and then like the just realization, he's like, wait a minute. Oh my god! He like realized it's like bing, like it hits him, and he's like, "You're Ben," and I'm like, "Yes, I'm Ben. Hi."
You
It's
should
kind
just
of like,
put some
"What's up?"
sunglasses on.
Oh, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
I mean, we already got you to do the quote, so that should be your other go-to. It's like when people ask, "Are you really him?" You just do the Ojo-sama, and then
I pretty
bam.
much did do that. Like, I pretty much hit him with the Ojo Sama, and he's just like, "You really are Ben," and I'm like, "Yes, I am. Hi, nice to meet you," kind of thing. It was
I'm half expecting like the plot twist to be that Ben and John aren't even real people; that they're just Terminators with like flesh over them. We're gonna get like this weird, horrible swerve.
Oh, come on! Don't do us like that. That would
Wow.
be terrible.
Wow.
Funny but terrible. Funny but terrible.
I have a bad feeling that if that does happen, I'm sorry, fandom. I created it.
Oh yeah, you put this into the universe. This is all on you. Like,
Hey.
It's all his fault now. We'll blame Wheels for everything. Honestly, I don't know.
I mean, I did tweet his Twitter out. It did blow up. Stuff happened. Things happened.
It's all your fault, Wheels. It's all your fault.
Sometimes, exactly. And when it's not my fault, it's Darkon's fault.
Yeah, it's rarely my fault. I'm usually blameless.
Yeah, except earlier on when the mic got all screwed up.
Oh, that was OBS. It did duplicate the audio.
That was still your fault.
It was my fault. It took 10 minutes for me to notice, but yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So do we have any other questions, or?
I don't think we have any other questions. I think we've gone like for 3 hours, 33 minutes, and like 3 seconds plus. I think we should start just wrapping things up. I mean, the people here have been so kind to
My
us to have
computer's
been
heating
here.
up. We really need to wrap.
Soundout's about to explode. Mike's
his
brother's
computer's
going
gonna
to
explode.
It's been running OBS and Skype for 3.5 hours. I don't know how much more it could take.
Exactly. So, Mike, since you are our guest, you get the plug first. What are things you need to plug, like social medias and whatnot? I mean, I'm just going to post your actual Twitter. If there's any place else, though, you want me to link to or whatnot, I can do that too.
I mean, the stuff that I have, like my social medias and stuff, are the ones I'm associated with, are like actually on my Twitter profile. So, like, follow me. My name is Michael Kinder. So that's like my. If you type in like Michael Kinder 00 on Instagram, you'll find me very quickly. It's just 0080 again. Gundam. So you can find me on Instagram. My actual name is on my Facebook. So Michael Anthony Kinder. You can find me there. It's just one word. Just type that in and you'll find me easily. And then I also tagged my dance school and studios that I do in Japan, which is West International or West Dance School. You type either of those in on Google or anything like that, you'll find us pretty easily. So that's all the plugs I actually have. West Dance School. Boom.
All right. Sound out. Plug your crap. I put your links in the chat already, so plug what you need to plug.
You can find me on primarily YouTube, as well as Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at SoundOut12. Discord pending, and I got a live stream tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern. So come hang out if you guys want to hear me talk about stuff. I don't know what the topics are for tomorrow. I picked those up today. And then we'll have videos this week, which are mostly just going to be compilations of the greatest hits of the year, being the Star Trek Playmates Toys retrospective compilation will be coming out Wednesday, and the Month of Monsters compilation will be coming out Friday. And the reason why you guys are getting compilations this week is because I'm tired and creatively bankrupt. So you guys get compilations, and then I'll do some cool stuff the following week. Probably got another Ultraman card set to review, since that'll be here Wednesday. So Anyways, stay tuned for that and find me there.
All right. I got to thank Toma and Alias for helping us out with curating the chat and getting us the questions from the chat. They don't really have stuff to really promote, but they do. Toma does have a Twitter at, was it Team Musashi18, I believe?
Yeah, that's one of them. So
yeah, that's one of them. So
put it in. You can always just put it in the chat too. So
yeah, I'll just.
We have a last question.
Do we? We have a last question, and it's from John himself, allegedly. Allegedly, it's probably actually him, but. And then I'll plug, and then we can get out of here. Michael, what's your favorite part about Tom?
Okay, what's my favorite part about Tom? Tom's a great guy. Like, I actually enjoy working on set with him. He's just like, he's a total sweetheart. So, like, he's really helpful with me because sometimes maybe I'll hear something or they'll tell me to do something. And, like, my Japanese is not perfect. It's not great at all. It's, it's decent. But then, like, he'll be there to be like, hey, man, they're saying this and saying that. So sometimes he's kind of my translator. So it's really awesome to have someone on set that actually has my back and, is looking out for my best interests, as well as, teaching me what to and what not to do on set. You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of those things where, if I was by myself, I wouldn't know as much. I wouldn't be able to do what I could do. So having Tom actually really helps me in that sense that I'm able to, having Tom on set really helps me, be able to navigate a Toku set better. Especially like we're working with Toei because, they're very, like, again, it's a business at the end of the day. And I've never been in that business before. So there's a lot I don't know. But Tom's been there. So he knows a lot about it. And he's able to teach me and, educate me as I'm going along, as opposed to just figure it out on your own and whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? So it's really good to have him on set with me. And also we bounce off each other a lot. So we kind of coincide a lot of our personalities off each other, So like if he's serious, I'm goofy. If I'm goofy, he's, like I'm goofy. But then if I'm serious, he's goofy. So, we kind of bounce off each other and we play off each other. And, it's actually a good time, So it's having someone who you're comfortable with and familiar with on set that just makes the set even more, that makes the shoot even more fun.
Okay, well, Tom just said you could have just said his beard or something. I mean, I would have gone with how he looks in a dress, You could have just said he looks nice in a dress.
He looks great in a dress. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, that will always be one of the best moments ever. Just walking in and finding out, I'm going to wear a dress. And I'm like, what? Really? It's not me? It's like, okay.
All right, and so I got to wrap up now. All right, so for myself, Wheelchair21 on YouTube and Twitter, but for our website, check out hero-club.com. It's already in the chat here. You can follow us across social media using Hero Club for Life. We stream on Twitch Wednesdays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesdays is usually our talk show news podcast where we're just running down what happened in the recent weeks, and maybe we'll do a review on a movie or a comic or whatnot, or just have a topic to discuss. And then Fridays is usually a game night stream. But with the holidays right now, I think we're going to take off a few weeks for gaming, and we'll come back later. So overall, we are done. We can wrap up, and we can start chopping up this interview to put up onto YouTube, and we can get the hell out of here. So Sound Out, take us out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our wonderful ramblings and conversations. And we've already done all the promotion, but please go check everybody out because we all are working hard to do our stuff, and we appreciate all of your support. And on that note, we're out of here.